across the UK, on DA+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. Welcome back. It's good to have your company. Excuse me. Right, coming up in the next 3 hours with me, coming up at midnight, of course, there is the phone-in. And at midnight, I want to talk to you about the cutting of foreign aid in order to supplement our defence budget. And I wonder if you think that that is counterintuitive. Certainly charities are saying that it is, that the soft power that we wield, that the money that we give prevents people from travelling over to the UK as migrants, etc., etc. But Keir Starmer did point out there's nothing that creates migrants more than a war. And I just want to gauge from you whether you take this threat from Russia seriously. Whether you think actually we shouldn't be spending that sort of money on defence, we shouldn't be spending it on foreign aid, we should be spending it here in this country. Look, the fuel bills have all gone up again. That's what we should be doing. We should be supplementing people's welfare and making sure that they can eat and heat. The problem with that is that if we're not prepared, and Russia does do what everybody is predicting Russia to do, then in a few years' time, we're not going to be worrying about eating or heating. So I gauge from you, I know we talked about the foreign aid budget when US aid was cut, but this is different now. It's being cut for defence purposes. And hopefully that might just stop another tax grab. So it's going to go down from, I think it's 0.6 to 0.3, and the idea is for it to go back up to 0.7 as and when we can afford it. Is this the right use of foreign aid money? So that's what we're going to be talking about at midnight. I'd love for you to join in. 0344 499 1000, and you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. So that's coming up at midnight. Before that, we have Ed Wiseman in the studio. Transport and I said that last time and he didn't turn up, but he is here this time. Ed Wiseman is in. I don't know if he's with his moustache or not. So this is an exciting time for viewers and listeners, indeed, to the newspaper review. So we'll be talking about all of the papers, all of the news for tomorrow. And I suspect what will be in that will be this deal, hopefully more details on the deal that Ukraine has done in the last couple of hours with the US on those minerals, because I know that Zelensky said he wasn't going to sign a deal that would put 10 generations of Ukrainians in hock to America. So it would be interesting to see what he's finally given Donald Trump and what Donald Trump has given him in return. So that's coming up. John Hearn will be here, a filmmaker, broadcaster and talk film reporter. He's going to be reviewing The Gorge, which I saw on Apple TV. I wasn't too sure about it, so I'll be interested to see what he's saying. And reviewing a film called The Monkey, which looks a little bit scary. So that looks good. Burton Kelso will be here as well. He's going to be talking about, did you see all the newspapers today where they had "it's not fair" using the words AI in the middle of the word fair, wrapped around all of the newspapers today? That was a project by a bunch of artists who were saying that that AI is going to steal copyright, basically. And they released an album, I think this is really clever, a sort of silent album to show what the arts would sound like in the future if AI just stole all of their work. And it just plays the sort of the background of a theatre, but none of the music that obviously that we love, and none of the speech and none of those artists' works. So that's really interesting. So we'll be talking about AI and also the Chinese rival to Musk's Starlink. Oh, he's not going to like that very much, is he? So that's and the iPhone 16e is launching. I'm trying to remember where. I think I'm on a 14. I don't care. I don't care. What is a 15 or a 16 going to give me that a 14 isn't? So we're going to be looking at that, and a global alert for cyber security group Ghost. So all of that's to come with the tech expert Burton Kelso, my brother from another mother, who's a tech expert at Integral in Kansas City in the USA. So all of that is to come in the programme. But first, we are going to be talking about what's happened in Germany and why it is that the far right have risen there to 20%. It's an extraordinary number. And many of you may be asking, well, why aren't they forming part of the coalition? It's a very good question, because they are second in line. And we know that Merz, the new Chancellor, is trying to organise a coalition, right? He's got to get a coalition together. But he's not touching the AfD. And you may be thinking, I wonder why that is. Well, we've got James Jackson now, political journalist based in Berlin, and I'm pretty sure he can answer that question for us. James, it's good to talk to you again. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. My understanding is the AfD has been classified as an extremist organisation seeking to undermine the constitutional order. Is that why that they're not being asked to form part of the coalition?
Well, I think this question of classification is important. I will say I don't think the AfD as a whole has been considered to be right-wing extremist, but there are individual states, Saxony, for example, Thuringia, the whole youth organization. So you might not be able to call everyone in it an extremist, but there are definitely a significant number of extremists. And in fact, just today, after this bumper election result, they decided to readmit 2 members who had been expelled for making comments about the Nazis that were not very appropriate. Maximilian Klahr, who was the top candidate in last year's European election, he said, you know, not everyone in the SS uniform was a criminal. It's like, well, they were a criminal organization. Of course they were, Max. So this question of flirting with the Nazi past is probably the biggest thing that divides them politically from the CDU under Mr. Merz, because he's very hard line on migration, and he has signaled previously he's willing to work with the AfD. He tried to pass a law to basically radically change and restrict asylum law in a way that many of his critics said was not compatible with European law. But in general, it's called the firewall against the far right in Germany. So it's this idea, it's a political convention that after part of learning from history is the idea that you don't work with the far right. Austria, however, doesn't have this and has had the FPO, their equivalent, in government a number of times. And they actually won the last election and may still be the leaders of the country with the Chancellor. So two different ways.
That was going to be my next question, James, because I'm aware of this firewall that has been put in place so that Germany doesn't lurch back to its unfortunate history. But if this vote had been an overwhelming win by the AfD, would it have become the government of Germany? Can it still do that maybe next time round?
I think that's a really good question. I think what intelligent people should be asking themselves is, does the AfD have a path to power, and in what form? And actually across Europe, we have all kinds of governments that have cooperated with the far right or been led with the far right. Sweden, I think, this is my personal estimate, I think Sweden offers the best example of a path to power for the AfD. Because Mr. Merz, he doesn't have much experience in government. He's won not the strongest victory. They were hoping for 30% plus, and they got 28.5%. I don't know if he's going to be very good at governing in a coalition, because he comes from a business world where he may be used to getting his own way. And he's got to work with the Social Democrats, and they don't have that much in common, actually, especially on this key issue of migration. But we will see how long migration's the top issue. Security might be one that they can sort of all get behind, and there are indications that's happening already. But what I think could happen is that if this coalition doesn't go very well, if it's not giving Germans what they want, or if Mr. Merz doesn't get his way, then perhaps if there's new elections are called and the AfD do slightly better, he could have a minority government which relies on the AfD for support, but without giving them any ministerial posts, which is similar to what the Sweden Democrats have up there. So very strange. But when you have a multi-party system and you need a coalition, sometimes you get strange combinations.
Yeah, well, we certainly know that. There's a lot of people might be listening and going, yeah, but that's not the will of the people. The will of the people is that you know, Merz got his 28%, the AfD got 20%. Shouldn't that form a political coalition? This is what the people voted for, and we similarly here with reform, right? There were times when reform, many times reform were the second at hustings to Labour or occasionally to the Tories, but they were second. So there was a lot of votes for reform, and yet they are not represented in those numbers in Parliament, and a lot of people don't understand that either. They're going, well, hang on a minute, if they were the second choice in many of these places, why didn't they get a bigger representation in government? So there will be people who are questioning Germany today and saying, well, if that's what people voted for, that's what people wanted.
Well, I sort of agree and I disagree with you here. I think we're talking actually about two different topics. So the question of who gets into Parliament is an issue for the UK because of the electoral system, first past the post. You know, Reform got pretty decent amount of votes, but not many MPs. In Germany, we've got proportional representation. So AfD got 20-odd% of votes and they got 20% of seats. The thing is, the winner, which is Mr. Merz, he gets to decide who he forms a government with.
Right.
And if you look at the polling, actually, okay, 20% of Germans voted for AfD, but 70% plus want to keep them out of government at any cost. So really, if you look at polling, one issue, of course, with coalitions is no one's fully happy with it because it's all about compromise.
Yeah,
no one's getting
right.
the government they really want, right? So I think that's a little bit different. I think most Germans want to keep the AfD out of power. And of course, to form a government, Mr. Merz needs to find 50% of seats. So that means he's got a majority, and he's got a majority with the SPD. Only a very small one, but it would have been different if other parties had been elected to Parliament with all of the parliamentary arithmetic and stuff. But he's kind of got lucky that some of the smaller parties didn't get in. It meant that the arithmetic was on his favour. He can work with the old classic coalition partners under Merkel anyway, the SPD, the Social Democrats. Let's see what gets done, because a lot of big figures have left German politics in this election, got booted out, humiliated, and I think we're still waiting to see who's going to be filling the gaps.
Well, Mr. Merz has certainly hit the ground running. In fact, he hit the ground before the election was declared. And look, I suspect there's frustration that he has not been invited to the White House in the same way that other European leaders have been. We've seen this week Macron and Starmer going there tomorrow. And Germany has kind of been sidelined politically because of the upheaval with the German elections. But Mr. Merz is very keen to have his voice heard, and he's talking now about a Europe without the US, that we have to prepare for a Europe without any US assistance, which is extraordinary.
You're right, but I have to say, this is something where Merz has really impressed me, because he was a very strong transatlanticist. He was head of a, think tank, which was all about transatlanticism, called the Atlantic Bridge. And he's really shown a bit of, he's seen the way that NATO is going under Donald Trump. And he's seen, hang on, we can't just rely on how things used to be. We actually want some strategic autonomy, as they call it in Europe. We need to be able to fight for ourselves, which is something Macron wanted to do, but was blocked under Merkel. So, and the SPD, of course, don't like to take risks on geopolitics other than buying Russian gas, unfortunately. Exactly. So, I think Merz, I'm actually quite impressed on this. I'm not I think he's made some bad decisions on working with the far right, personally speaking. But I think the fact that he's so quickly coming into office and saying, listen, we need to be able to defend ourselves without relying on the US. Because the US right now, under Donald Trump, and who knows who in the future, is not a reliable partner for Europe. They seem to prefer working with Putin than with the Germans.
I never thought we'd be having that conversation. I mean, it is extraordinary. The thing is, though, that, of course, Germany wasn't allowed to be a nuclear power. So Germany at the moment has Ramstein in it, American Air Force base. It's a military base, which has got 35,000 US in the centre of Germany, if you like, there as a defensive action. If Trump draws down and starts removing personnel, which is the next natural step, right? Especially if you're petty, you might start to do that. Germany is going to have to look to France and to the UK for that nuclear umbrella that is so vital to the protection of Europe. Are we going to see a Germany, France and British sort of leadership, if you like, in the future of Europe? And how will the other countries feel about that?
I think that's a really good question. I think that's up to Mr. Starmer and Mr. Macron to decide to a certain extent for while they're in office. I think it's really sort of ground zero for European security at the moment. I think Germany is lucky that it doesn't share a border quite with Russia, but it is closer than the UK is. And a lot of analysts actually say Germany, because of its historical pacifism, has been seen as the weak link within NATO. Germans would say, especially on the left, would say, well, we don't want to escalate the war. I mean, I understand that, but sometimes when you're dealing with a bully, you can't show weakness. And I think they have arguably shown weakness in the past. I think with Merz, that might be changing, actually. But a lot of people under Scholz were so scared of escalation that they've led to a situation where, Ukraine could be bled dry.
Yeah, it becomes appeasement at some point, doesn't it? It just becomes... Look, I mean, Zelensky must be pleased that it's Merz. He's made no bones about it. He sees Ukraine as the front line dealing with Russia and is hell-bent on defending that. But Germany economically isn't really in a position to increase spending on defence or even increase spending on supporting other people's defence spending.
Well, yes, I think that's one way of looking at it, absolutely. And definitely Zelensky and most of Ukrainians were happy with this victory. In foreign policy terms, actually, Merz seems to be much more interested in working with his allies.
He certainly does, yeah.
In the Weimar Triangle, which is with Poland and France, and obviously Poland is an absolutely key state here. So one of the first things Merz said, actually, was that he hopes that after the victory, was that he hopes that this coalition negotiation goes quickly because Europe is waiting for Germany. And he's right. In terms of defense spending, the news today is that he's working with the old parliament, as in the majority, before he forms a new government, to try to pass a special bill to get around Germany's debt brake for getting 200 billion for defense. So they will find a way. Germany's historically been very against borrowing money to an extent that even economists say is too far. And he will try and get the funding. I think another question is, yeah, you're spending money, but are you sometimes making money if you're buying domestic goods and investing in domestic industry? I mean, of course, we all want to spend money on hospitals and roads, but if they're getting bombed by Russians, because you don't spend enough on defence, then that's the sad part of this.
Just quickly, just as to the mood of Germans, I'm absolutely in love with Berlin. I spent a lot of happy times in Berlin. I worked there for a few years, and I've got nothing but love for the German people. But you can't help, when you walk around Berlin, there are memorials everywhere to what happened in the Second World War, pink triangles when you come out of a tube station. I mean, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. Have Germans on the street had a bit of a shock with how well the AfD have done? I imagine that older Germans, certainly who have a residual memory of those times, will do. But do other people feel a bit sad that that is the image that is being portrayed around the world?
I think absolutely. And you mentioned the pink triangles. I actually went past that memorial earlier today by Nollendorf.
Yeah, that's the one.
To the gays who were killed under the Nazis and queer people. And I think the issue is, these times AfD have doubled their result, and it's particularly strong in the East. So as much as we want to talk about the Nazis, we should also talk about the communists, because there's something that happened, and political scientists disagree about it, but that laid the seeds to this sort of semi-fascist revival across Eastern Germany, which you may think would be the opposite.
Yeah, I would think that's totally counterintuitive. Yeah.
People say it's about lack of migration or sort of distrust towards the system, perhaps, and the AfD is an anti-system party. They're a sort of protest party to a certain extent. But you have to have completely forgotten all of your history lessons as a German to vote for a party that flirts with, the far right, and even, I went to a neo-Nazi rally actually last week, and they were very happy about the AfD, I can tell you that. But then there are some more liberal figures within that, Alice Weidel being one of them, of course. She's former Goldman Sachs, quite likable, if I'm being honest. I would say even more so than Merz and Scholz. And she's younger, she's a lesbian, married to a woman from Sri Lanka. So she's putting a sort of more modern face onto the party. But, some of the politics in there are also not as bad as you might expect, but I think it's really this question of dealing with Putin and forgetting about Germany's history, trivializing it in a way that's quite offensive to a lot of people.
Well, Elon Musk throwing that salute, and then Steve Bannon throwing a Nazi salute as well. I know what that would mean to the German people that I know. Listen, it's been fabulous talking to you, James. Thank you very much indeed. James Jackson there, a political journalist based in Berlin. My heart belongs in Berlin. I absolutely love that city. Got to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. Well, 2.5 hours. So coming up at midnight, as you know, it is the hour. It is the hour that you get to talk back. And it is the only clear hour on the station. So this is your opportunity to have your say, to have your voice heard and your opinions listened to. So what I want to talk to you about is the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has set out plans to increase defence spending to 2.5% of national income by 2027. And this is because of the peace talks that are sort of ongoing between Ukraine. Well, it's not. I'm going to say between Russia and the US actually at the moment. But this is a potential that we could see everything shift in Europe. We see the Americans taking a more hands-off approach to the defence of Europe, which leaves a gaping hole, frankly, in our defences. Since 1945, we've relied on America as the largest part of NATO to be there if we needed them. And in return, we've given them land in different countries to put bases on and things like that. And they get to use that. They get to use that for intelligence purposes as well. The biggest one is now in Europe, I believe, is Ramstein in Germany, a place that I have visited. It's very strange because it's a little America right in the middle of Germany, and they've got about 35,000 personnel out there. So Germany is worried at the moment that they could be drawn down by Donald Trump, because if he's not going to have as big a role in NATO in the defence of Europe, and he's told us that's what he's going to do. He's going to withdraw his defence, his umbrella from us, if you like. Then it leaves us exposed. It leaves us really very exposed. It leaves Germany particularly exposed because Germany was not allowed to become a nuclear power because of its history, right? So it would be down to the UK and France, who are nuclear powers, to become that umbrella, which means we need to spend more on defence. Also, if there is a peace to be given between Russia and Ukraine, then there will be a green zone. It'll have to be policed by soldiers. And originally Russia said no NATO forces, which was most of Europe, isn't it? So that's just dumb. So I think they've now said, yeah, OK, you can have some there. So we will be sending soldiers to hold the peace, if you like, to hold the line. And so we're, A, going to need more of them, and B, we're going to need more money in defence. We've woefully underspent on defence for decades. I used to work in the defence field as a reporter, and every year it was woeful. The cutbacks, the regiments being disbanded, the regiments being combined. It was a tragedy. It was an absolute tragedy to see these fine men and women being reduced to a few scraps here and there. And it left us exposed. It has left us exposed because we've gone, nah, it's all right, America will step in. Well, America won't. And in case you're thinking, well, NATO Article 5, they have to. Nah, they don't. They don't have to. It's a nice to have rather than a legal requirement. So do you approve of defence spending? Look, it's going to come at the cost of foreign aid. But maybe you think that's the right way to spend that money. Take it from foreign aid. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that we give so much money to foreign aid. Take it from there, give it to defence, defend this country, and start to really defend Europe. It's naive to think we won't need it at some point. So that's what we're talking about at midnight. I'd love to hear your view. Maybe you think this is counterintuitive. Look, US aid has just been pulled. There are people suffering around the world. There are diseases spreading. You might think, should be there, filling that gap and providing more aid. 0344 499 1000.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And don't forget, coming up at the top of the hour, Ed Wiseman will be here to go through the papers for tomorrow. Right now, though, my brother from another mother, Burton Kelso, joins us, Chief Tech Expert at Integral in Kansas City, the USA. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
You're looking fine, Burton, as ever. Looking fine. I see that your collection behind you has grown.
A little.
A little. A geek and his toys will never be parted. It's as simple as that. Let's talk about artists' silent album that was released. I don't know if you saw today, Burton, but all of our newspapers had an external wrap on them that said it's not fair, using the A and the I of fair to highlight AI stealing copyright. So it was quite dramatic today.
It is, and I can understand all the artists when it comes to artificial intelligence and the fact that that technology can take their likeness and their voice and people can use it to capitalize. And here in the U.S., we've seen many examples of that. So I can understand why you're seeing that in the U.K., because how do you protect artists' intellectual property?
I just don't know if it's possible. I mean, in my spare time, Burton, I'm a bit of a painter. You know, it is quite concerning that people can just take an image that you've created and basically steal it.
Right. And I think what needs to happen as far as the digital world that we're currently living in with AI is that there needs to be implementation of technology that's able to spot AI versus a live person. It's becoming harder and harder. And I think a lot of websites are starting to integrate that so that if you see a celebrity or a musical artist or even a piece of artwork on the internet, then you'll know that it's either fake or if it's the real deal. And I think that's the only thing we can do at this point. But obviously AI needs to evolve to a point where artists are protected more and more. And I know there are chatbots out there that if you try to do a likeness of a celebrity or a known piece of work, then it just doesn't occur.
Oh, that's good. That's good. But they've released a silent album. My understanding is that it's got the noises, let's say the background noises of a theatre, for example, but with none of the performances on it to show what it would be like if art was erased by AI. Right.
And I think as far as, well, let's take James Earl Jones, for example. Before his untimely passing, he gave the rights to Lucasfilm or Star Wars or Disney to utilize his voice as Darth Vader in future movies or whatever. But that needs to really been taken into consideration because there are artists that want to see that legacy go further. But then the artists that don't want that to occur, obviously they need to be protected so that people can't capitalize off of their likeness or their voice.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the one with Tom Hanks where he's giving the endorsement for some drug because he's a type 2 diabetic. I mean, it's just, it's insane.
It really is. But I tell you, one bit of AI that I really appreciate, in fact, I'm hoping it's not AI, is the image of Donald Trump sucking Elon Musk's toes that was broadcast all over federal buildings.
Yeah, now that's a piece of AI artwork.
Oh, damn it.
I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with that.
No. I mean, unless it is real. I mean, come on.
It would be nice if it were real, but, you know,
yeah.
Darn it, you know, it's almost a double-edged sword with AI and artistic ability. But artists and public figures do need to be protected.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So I'm glad to see this effort in the UK of these artists that have the silent album out, because it really makes a statement, I think, as far as making sure that we are protecting artists' rights. It almost reminds me of 25 years ago with Napster. You remember those days? Yanking music off the internet? I mean, it's intellectual property. It just can't be out there for everyone to take advantage.
You shouldn't be able to steal that stuff. It's just, it's so easy. It's so easy to do. I know that my voice has been used in something that I didn't. I did it for one thing and then it was used for something else. And although it wasn't saying anything bad, but it was used commercially, and I didn't get paid for that. So I got paid the lower fee for a job for the company, and then they used it for broadcast, and that I didn't get paid for, and they just went, "It's too late. We're not paying you." So
they still should. Are they still using your voice, or?
It was a few years ago. I don't think so. I don't really watch commercial television, but they're not going to pay. It's too late. And anyway, they can probably fake it now, can't they? So it's just like there's no point arguing with them anymore. Life's too short. Elon Musk, quite a contentious figure, one might suggest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to revitalize 1939 again, isn't he?
Yeah. I saw there's been adverts been placed around London. I don't know if you've seen these, but that says Tesla naught to 1939.
Yes. We've seen them in the U.S. In fact, I texted my boys that message this afternoon. So, yeah.
So quite a contentious figure, but he's concerned, I would imagine, because he thought Starlink was going to be the biggest thing in the world, but China are really going for it, and they look like they're going to be the biggest thing in the world in terms of satellite technology and satellite size.
Oh my gosh, not even just China with their space sale, but also Amazon. Jeff Bezos has jumped in the game, and they have something called Coupler or whatever. But I think there's two sides of it. So it's a good thing, because Uncle Elon needs a little competition. He can't just own space, and obviously that can't happen. So it's good to see that the Chinese are jumping in, so that, Elon's not got global domination with the telecom system, which, that's a scary thought. But also on the U.S. side, you've got Jeff Bezos with Amazon. So the good news is in countries that are underserved, they're going to have access to high-speed internet, which I think is phenomenal. Especially in communist regions, you can not hop on the People's Network. Maybe you can hop on another satellite system for high-speed internet and access to what's going on in the West. On the bad side, now we're going to have to contend with more space garbage and people racing to the lowest bidder as far as internet service is concerned. So, I mean, it's just going to cause a mess, and we've got enough space junk as it is anyway. Do we?
Yeah, that is going to be a major problem in a few years' time. But it comes to something, Burton, when we're saying thank goodness for the Chinese creating a marketplace and stopping Musk. But are we going to see a little bit of a bitch fight between two billionaires then, Bezos and Elon? We could get some jelly or some mud or something and have them fight it out.
Well, of course, because both of these billionaires seem like they're bent on world domination. So obviously, you're going to see a little tussle between those, a little row, as you would say. But it needs to happen, because one technology just cannot rule the world. It's like Elon trying to get a hold of ChatGPT a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that just can't happen, because that's just too much technology for just one person to own. In the digital world, it needs to be diversified and available for everyone to have a piece of that pie.
Yeah, no matter who that is, right? No matter who it is, it shouldn't happen. I mean, I was horrified to learn that, we're pretty much not much better in this country, but that of all the media organizations in the US, it's owned by 6 people. That it's not diversified enough, really, and I think we have the same problem here. I'm going to skip to this iPhone 16e launch. Do we care? I mean, what is it giving us that 15 or 16A, B, C, or D gives you?
Right, but Petrie, what people fail to understand about Apple and accessibility. And when I talk about tech, I'm always about it should be for the masses. So I think it's good that Apple is releasing this 16E. I mean, the only differences between the current 16 and the 16E is the fact that it doesn't have a robust camera, and maybe the microphone is not that great. But people, the masses, need to have access to the technology, because the internet and everything that's there is, in my opinion, the great equator. So
yeah.
you really
How much cheaper is it?
That's a good question. I think you're talking about a phone that's probably under $1,000, as opposed to a current iPhone, which is what, 1,500 to 2,000, depending. That's a big jump.
Yeah,
it really
still expensive, but yeah, it's a big drop.
Right. And it's almost like between a Windows computer and an Apple computer. Apple computers, as we all know, are expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas you can get a decent Windows computer that does pretty much the same thing. So I'm happy to see this. As far as as far as what it offers, not much. It just offers more accessibility for the less, what am I trying to say? Economically challenged people that need to have access to a smartphone.
Yeah, no, that's all to the good, and the second-hand market will be even cheaper, which is where I buy mine. So
good for you. You should.
No, I don't. I never buy a new phone. I always go second-hand. That's why I'm only on a 14 currently.
I'm on a 13.
Yeah,
so
there you go. You see, I've only just upgraded, and I only upgraded because my son's phone broke, and he gets my old phone, so I had to upgrade and then give him my phone, which is a 13. So that's what we do. Still paying my 27-year-old's phone bill, obviously.
Yeah, but I think more people need to talk about the fact of using older electronics and not being on the bandwagon and jumping out for the latest and greatest.
Yeah,
so again,
that's me. That's me, Burton. I'm never going to do that. I'm a late adopter anyway. Burton Kelso, it's always a joy to see your wonderful face. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Quick break and then back to talk movies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and it is time to talk movies now. Johnny Hearn joins us, filmmaker, broadcaster and talk film reporter. Hello there.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Good to see you. Let's jump straight in to The Monkey. This looks horrific.
I mean, it is horrific, but it's kind of a comedy horror movie. So it's based on a Stephen King short film, and it has one of the weirdest premises for a horror movie that I've seen for a long time. So the idea is that there's this large toy monkey that plays the drums when you wind it up.
Right.
And but it's also sort of possessed, demonic kind of toy monkey.
Yeah.
Of course. So when you wind it up, it will start playing the drum, boom, 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 and then it will stop. And then as it hits the drum for the final time, somebody who is connected to the person that has wound it up will die an horrific and bizarre death through some kind of weird accident that's totally implausible in many cases.
Fun.
So that's the premise. The story is about two young twins who discover this when they move house, and weird things start to happen. People start to die when they play with it, and then one of them works out what's going on, and he wants to kill his twin brother because his twin brother bullies him all the time because his twin brother's like ever so slightly older and always bullies him. So he asks the monkey to kill his twin brother. The monkey doesn't take requests and ends up killing their mother. And so these two boys become orphans. And then the story jumps to 25 years later when they're grown up. And this monkey comes back into their lives after they'd thrown it away thinking they got rid of it forever, because you can't get rid of this thing. And then it comes back 25 years later and the chaos starts again.
Okay, fun. Shall we have a listen or a look at The Monkey?
Oh, that's odd. I don't remember locking this.
You wouldn't happen to remember if my aunt had a wind-up toy monkey at the yard sale?
Oh, not a cherished childhood memory now, was it?
The coroner said it was an accident, but it was no accident. It was a monkey.
Hello, brother.
Bill.
The monkey that likes killing our family. It's back. It must be vanquished.
Why don't you vanquish it? We have been chosen to witness its power over life and death.
The toy monkey?
It's evil. It's basically the devil.
It actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, is it tongue-in-cheek?
There is a lot of humour in this. Yes, it's not meant to be taken seriously. I think the short story is a lot more serious because Stephen King stories tend to be the kind of darker. But it is very funny in places, and the deaths are really contrived. They're real bizarre accidents, and some of them are grotesquely funny, I have to say. But it also does have its shocking moments and a few jump scares and whatever. I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers.
Okay, I might, because me with horror films, I'm not a fan. But if it's got some humour in it, I might give it a go whilst hiding behind a cushion. So that's a 15. It's 1 hour 38. There's something about the monkey not banging cymbals though, because isn't that the traditional monkey?
Yeah, so the traditional toy is, as you say, is a monkey that bangs cymbals, sideways. But the copyright for that is actually owned by Walt Disney because it was featured in the Toy Story 3 movie. And they took over the copyright of it to have that sinister monkey character as one of the sort of henchmen to the big pink teddy bear, if you know Toy Story 3. And so they own the copyright for it, so they couldn't use that. So they went for an idea with the monkey bashing a drum, which I actually think works better. It's a little bit more sinister. But the great ironic twist of that is the only reason the monkey with the cymbals was in Toy Story 3 was because the director of that film was actually a big Stephen King fan and had read it in this short story and thought, that's quite sinister. I'll put a little toy monkey bashing the cymbals in. So it would have had cymbals. It would have had cymbals had it not been for Toy Story 3.
And does Stephen King like this film?
I don't know if Stephen King likes this film. I haven't heard that he doesn't like it, and
apparently it's a good thing if he doesn't like it. It means it's good.
a lot of he's not a big fan of a lot of the adaptations. He's made an absolute fortune out of the adaptations of, I mean, anything. He writes a shopping list, somebody turns it into a movie.
Yeah.
So he's made an absolute fortune from the movies. But he very rarely likes anything that's made of his film. I think one or two have been good. You know, that he's like Misery was good, but
that was
not a massive.
Right, let's turn our attention now, that's in cinemas now, to The Gorge, which is a 15. It's 2 hours and 7, and it's on Apple TV. So I've seen this and not clicked on it. Any good?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting premise. So it's an original story. It's not based on any existing IP, which is very rare these days. Yeah, exactly. It's not a sequel. It's not a spin-off. It's not a prequel or reimagining of anything. It's an actual, genuine, original story. So the premise is there's a gorge somewhere in the world. We don't know where. It's sort of probably Eastern Europe way. And it's a very deep gorge with very steep sides. And on one side, there is a tower on the west side. And on the other side, on the east side, there is a tower. And so you have two characters. Miles Teller is recruited by Sigourney Weaver to go and be positioned in the West Tower. And Anya Taylor-Joy is recruited to go and be in position in the East Tower. And they're going to be there for a year each. And the whole area is cloaked from satellites, so nobody knows it's there. Nobody can see them. There's no contact with the outside world. All they have to do is make sure nothing comes up from inside this gorge, because deep inside this gorge is some very nasty, horrible things. And also what they're not allowed to do is communicate with each other. So, of course, being that it's one male, one female, they end up communicating by writing messages, looking at each other through telescopes and things like that.
Do they fall in love?
Well, they spark up a friendship, shall we say.
All right.
And so the first half of the film is all about this kind of forbidden relationship that they have across this vast gorge, with a few bits of action thrown in. And then it takes a brilliant twist in the middle, which obviously I won't give away, but the whole story then spins off into a completely different kind of story in the second half. And that's when it really gets interesting. And that's what I really loved about this film.
Oh, that is interesting. I mean, if it has spun you, if it surprised you, then that's got to be a good thing. Let's have a listen or a look now at The Gorge. It's a 15 and it's on Apple TV.
I have new orders that require me to go dark for at least a year, maybe more.
As an elite sniper, are you presently under any private or military contract?
No. There's not a lot of reasons for me right now.
What if I gave you a reason?
There she is. West Tower Observation Post. You're home for the next 365 days. There is no outside communication here.
What's that on the other side?
That is East Tower. Contact with the other side is strictly forbidden.
So what's the mission? To keep people from going in the gorge?
No. You need to stop what's in the gorge from coming out.
What the hell is that?
The gorge is the door to hell.
This place is evil.
Okay, well maybe I'll have a look at that, John.
I think you'll like that. It's a good thriller, good tense thriller.
Yeah, I like thrillers. That might be quite good actually. Like I said, I've skipped across it because I just didn't fancy it, but maybe they're just not advertising it properly.
Well, it's kind of promoted. You know, they say it's this sort of long distance kind of romance across this.
Which would turn me off completely. Yeah.
Exactly, and it kind of almost put me off because I thought, I don't really want to watch that for 2 hours. But that's only the first half, but they can't say what the second half is without giving away the great twist. It's in order to protect the actual story that I think they're kind of sort of putting off a few people from watching it. But
that's interesting. Well, I shall definitely give that a go. And just quickly, I think we've got a minute before I have to leave you. But Amazon has bought the Bond franchise.
Yes. Well, they bought MGM, the studio that owns or makes all the Bond movies,
Right.
a few years ago. But they were still working with Barbara Broccoli, Kelly
Right.
Broccoli's daughter, to make new movies. But nothing has happened in the last 4 years, and so they then spent an extra $1 billion to buy take complete financial control and creative control over it. So Barbara Broccoli is no longer anything to do with it, or the original team have nothing to do with it. Amazon have taken complete control over James Bond, which means they're going to have to get that money back somehow. So expect an awful lot of James Bond movies, TV series, spin-offs and things, a little bit like Disney have done with Star Wars, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Whether that's a good
that
thing or
waters
not,
it down though, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they'll probably one or two things will be good. I suspect quite a lot of it will be just very derivative and not very good. Just like, Star Wars has happened. Some of the Star Wars series,
too many of them. Yeah.
But a lot of them are terrible.
Like you said, they've got to get the money back. I saw some actors or some people saying, please don't make it too woke. That's what they're concerned about. John, thank you very much indeed. Johnny Hearn there, filmmaker, broadcaster and talk film reporter. Back in a sec with Ed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good to have your company, and with me is the fabulous Ed Wiseman, for he is a wise man, apparently.
That's true.
No moustache though. What is going on?
No, no
Girlfriend
whatsoever.
vetoed it.
No,
You're
again,
very clean shaven now.
Again, it's I didn't want to be in the hinterland between having a moustache and not having a moustache, so I had a full and frank conversation with myself in the mirror and realised it was just too scruffy. You can't be in that 3-week stage where you
look very pale without a moustache.
Yeah, and I look about 10 years younger as well. The whole thing, I'm not sure it works for me necessarily, but when you just have kind of ill-shaven stubble, you look like you're about to ask somebody for a quid outside.
Yeah, it's always a problem for me.
Yeah, constantly. I bet you're
constantly.
People shuffling away from you, thinking you're a panhandler.
Yeah, every morning. Frankly.
I get that. I get that most days. So I thought I'd give you this rendition of myself with a view to building up to a proper moustache next time I'm in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you that butch?
I don't know yet. I'm going to have to do some really butch stuff and just really hope.
Force it out
exactly.
to grow.
Guinness for breakfast.
Because if you haven't got one next time you come, you know I'm just going to take them in.
Yeah, exactly. You'll know that I'm just too fey and too sort of
too
wayfish.
Well, anyway, it's good to have you back. I just want to mention this story because it was an announcement that Keir Starmer made today before heading off to Washington DC, and the timing of it, of course, is not just a mere coincidence, a coinkydink, because he wants to go to Donald Trump and say, I've upped my spending budget to 2.5. Donald Trump wants 5%. He doesn't even pay 5%. I think it's 3.3%.
Yeah.
5% is completely off the cards. But Starmer wants to say, look, I've done this. We're prepared to play our part. So he's taking this to Trump.
Yeah.
The way he's tried to sell it to us is to say, I'm not going to tax you for this. I'm just going to tax poor people.
Yeah.
And vulnerable, dying people in other countries.
Far away, yeah.
Other countries far away that nobody seems to care about very much, and take it off the aid budget. Do you think that is going to be a popular decision for British people?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, or do you think this is counterintuitive, that actually this isn't the right way to go?
I think The Guardian is going to fly off the handle tomorrow morning, but there's going to be plenty of people out there who, rightly or wrongly, think, why are we spending so much money on people far up on the other side of the world when we have domestic problems at home and potentially a need for a more comprehensive security package. I think the idea of soft power as well, we do project a lot through aid as a nation, and we kind of always have done, and that is quite an easy thing to undervalue maybe when times are tough. It's quite easy to say, well, why are we spending all this money on...
But I mean, also we spend money on stopping diseases.
Yeah, which is great.
So then if they are, in a country like, let's, for example, say Africa, I'm just thinking about the particular diseases there.
In the Congo, yeah.
In the Congo. That if we stop it there, it doesn't come here.
Yes.
So there is, a lot of people go, why are we stopping that when our own NHS is struggling? But it is literally to create a distance between us and those diseases.
Absolutely.
So that's why we would spend that money.
Terrific idea. But if you were a politician, would you highlight those very sensible applications of the UK aid budget, or would you say, well, why are we spending money on knit your own muesli workshop in Peru or some poetry class in sub-Saharan Africa? I'd highlight those things that you could arguably say were a little bit of a sort of peripheral edge case.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is probably what the politicians are going to major on, rather than saying, the aid budget isn't just free money for foreign people. It's actually quite a savvy use of our taxpayers' money to project British power, British soft influence overseas, and also, to prevent somebody eating a bat in the Congo or whatever just happened from becoming a problem in Nuneaton, which is probably what would happen if we didn't have all of this apparatus stopping it from coming to Europe.
Yeah. The thing is, though, do you think that Keir Starmer has been emboldened to do this because of what Donald Trump has done to US? They call it USAID, but it spells aid. I don't know why they don't just say US aid.
Yeah, it's odd.
Very strange. But because, Trump went in, smashed that with a hammer. It's causing major problems domestically because all those farmers that grew the crops to give to the people in different countries are now going bankrupt, etc., etc. But do you think that Keir took that kind of almost has softened it for the British public?
Yeah, it's legitimised it.
I think it's legitimised the decision to take it off aid.
Yeah. I think that very impulsive, like you just said, with Trump's decision to unilaterally slash all these very important, very complex mechanisms, which do have huge domestic implications. It's not just, we're a bit hard up this month, so we won't give a tenner to Oxfam. It's much more complicated than that and much more inherently transactional. But all over the world, lots of people are going to be thinking, well, that's the way to do it, I guess, even if it's not what Sir Keir is at heart thinking. What else are you going to do if you want to ramp up your aid budget? Trump's
I mean, I always say this, it's a radical idea, I know, but why don't we just tax the multi-conglomerate businesses
Tax
more?
the rich is sort of the one thing
I mean, even if you don't want to tax individual rich people, right? I mean, I don't necessarily see a problem with that, but we shouldn't go back to the 75% or the 90% that Labour had before on rich people, because all that happens is you get a brain drain. But there are corporations in this country that pay little to no tax to this country, and it seems like all these governments are so terrified of tackling that. But if they simply said to those, like Starbucks, for example, there's a sales tax in Britain. If you're selling coffee in London, there's a sales tax of 2p. Now, that might go on the coffee, probably, but they've got no choice but to pay it at the point they are set. Because at the moment they go, oh no, well the cup is from Ireland, so we don't pay tax on that. The coffee is from Brazil, so we don't pay tax on that. We're not paying tax on that because that's from Italy. So, yeah, Soza, we don't owe any British tax. You just go, well, I can't see why it isn't so easy to say, well, the end product is still a cup of coffee with a lid and whatever. There's a tax on selling that.
Yeah.
That, to me, would increase... I don't know what... It just seems too simple.
Starbucks is probably a tougher nut to crack than foreign aid, isn't it? They can't really fight back. Starbucks can throw its weight around over here and be politically, you know, a bit of a hot potato. Starbucks probably isn't the biggest. Who's the biggest tax dodging?
Well, I would hate to say tax dodging. Tax efficient. I would say probably Amazon.
Yes, biggest by.
But yeah, I mean there are many of them.
Yeah.
They're sort of like, you know, magpies in the nest. They sit in that nest and they go out and they steal all the jewels around them out of our pockets, and then they don't pay any tax on that. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. And I do think that would solve a lot of problems.
And they take all the money back to the US, which is kind of going off the rails a little bit at the moment.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I was thinking about plucky Argos yesterday.
Were you?
Yeah, is that not the antidote to Amazon? They're pretty good. I had a look.
It depends what you mean by antidote.
Well, just why are we not shopping at Argos instead of Amazon?
I think it's only a very good reason.
What do you find more interesting stuff on Amazon?
Yeah. I'm trying not to buy anything.
Trying just not to buy the whole. Just
no,
off.
I'm trying not to buy anything American.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I've given it a go.
Yeah. I've got an iPhone, but it is a second-hand iPhone.
That doesn't count.
But it does sort of count. But you know, I've had it for a little while, and I'm trying now not to buy anything. I found out that Colgate is my toothpaste is American.
Oh, well, everything, all of that.
The
weird
Pantene hair mask is American. So now I've bought Aussie hair stuff. Yeah, I'm trying not to. I'm trying to support my US cousins. Aussie is Aussie.
It's actually Aussie. It's not owned by...
it might have been bought by somebody.
Well, that's the thing. It's probably headquartered in Delaware, like everything else. That's the problem. When you trace it all back,
it's all one company.
It's PepsiCo or something right at the top. Yes.
But look, I mean, I do think that there has been a strengthening of resolve in this country geopolitically. I hope that people are beginning to realise that we are on our own now, as far as America is concerned, and perhaps we do need to start
doing something
to defend ourselves from Russia.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. It might not just be to go and show Trump our homework. It might also be a genuinely sort of late move. It's a slightly overdue decision to make.
It's been going on for decades.
Yeah, exactly.
We've been cutting back on defence because we've been over-reliant on America.
Yeah.
And I don't like being reliant on people. So I think I'd rather be independent.
Especially not those guys right now.
Not right now.
But it's a very weird, cultivated reliance, however many decades it's been, when you think back to any US president where it's been so carefully managed, the relationship.
It's been mainly since 1945, hasn't it, really, that we've relied on them for defence.
Yeah, I mean, that's going back.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel as though the past 3 weeks has done a lot of... It seems quite a seismic shift away from something that goes back sort of...
Well, France have... offered Greenland troops. Did you know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. France has actually said to Greenland, which America wants to rename Red, White and Blue Land.
Yeah, I did.
Not even making that up.
Yeah.
Not even a joke, although it does sound like a 3-year-old came up with it.
It does, a little bit.
Red, White and Blue Land. So the French foreign minister, I think it is, said to Greenland, if you want troops, we will send you French troops. And Greenland so far said, no, you're all right for now.
Yeah. What about Danish troops? Isn't it Danish? I thought.
Yes,
Greenland
it is, but I don't think they've got a very big army.
No.
So the suggestion is that France will send defensive troops. But we're talking about a European country being defended from America.
Yeah.
I mean, can we just hear what we're saying?
I mean, how much of it is just guff? Because some of what he says is just guff.
We can't just go, oh, it's probably just rubbish.
Yeah. I wonder what the Greenlanders are thinking.
There's only about 57,000. It's like the Falklands.
It's microscopic.
Yeah.
They all sort of know each other.
Well, they don't want to be American.
No.
I mean, it's like the Canadians don't want to be American.
Well, I feel as though if you live in Greenland, you fundamentally just want to be left alone, really.
That's why you live there, right?
It's quite an introverted sort of place.
Yeah. I mean, that's the place you go when you don't want to be bothered by other people.
Precisely.
I'm thinking of moving there.
Exactly, yeah, it does sound pretty great.
It sounds so cool.
That's the thing, when they do those photo essays, and it's just like, oh, this is what it's like on the front line of this latest thing, and you just think, wow, I would love to live in a little red-painted hut.
I actually used to have a producer called Paul when I worked at Deutsche Welle, which is a German TV organisation in Berlin, who was from Greenland. So I actually have met somebody from Greenland.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
brilliant guy.
Why? How did he find his way to
I don't know.
To Berlin?
To Berlin, yeah.
From Greenland. That's a
but I used to rib him mercilessly about Greenland.
About just being from... Because to be fair, that's a funny starting point.
It's a great starting point.
You don't need to...
Yeah, he was a brilliant producer, lovely guy. Yeah. Let's have a look at the USA Today, which is the newspaper we've got. Couple of interesting things here, talking about aid. USAID, aid, just say aid, money has a complex history, and some say vital mission has been misunderstood. If you drink coffee, use a cell phone, know a grain farmer or a port worker, and have avoided monkeypox and Ebola, chances are good your life may have been touched by the work of the US Agency for International Development. And that's exactly what we were just saying.
Yeah.
That actually the aid money is so intertwined with everything that it's very difficult just to say, well, we're not giving that money to them anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's being wasted on condoms in Gaza.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I also think that, the word aid is probably a bit of a misnomer, really, because it's not really. And they call it development, overseas development and things, which is kind of also a little bit of a euphemism for what it actually is, which is just, soft power. And it's sort of, we want this to happen, here's some money to make it happen kind of thing.
And America has made billions out of this so-called development, because I read a book, a really good book, a few years ago now. The title of it was Why People Hate America. Or Why the World Hates America. It's an astonishingly good book, actually. And it talked about what America does, let's say with grain, since grain is mentioned on USA Today. And what they do is they flood a country with, calling it aid, with cheap grain until the grain growers in that country can't afford to grow their own grain. And then that country then becomes reliant on US grain, even after any aid has stopped. And they've done it with rice, they've done it with wheat, all over the world. And this book sort of breaks down the billions that they use. They use the aid, the aid system to kick open a door, and then they go in and say, look, we've got all this cheap grain for you, there you go, we're helping you, we're helping you, we're helping you. Local farmers then go out of business, and then the country becomes reliant on US grain, of which there is a glut. So that's how they get rid of their glut. So it's just really, really interesting, actually. Another story on USA Today, ICE arrests appear to be stagnant. Wearing a bulletproof vest in New York City, Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem faced the camera and made herself clear, we're going to get these dirtbags off the street. This is the language of America, people.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're not doing quite as well as they thought they would be in this barrage of activity by ICE.
Yeah, so far the deportation of migrants is well below the monthly average during the Biden administration.
During the Biden administration, ironic.
Just, kind of, a little bit. But how much of this is because they just keep firing people who work for their civil service? It's sort of how effective is it if everybody's worried about their jobs and or being actively sacked? How many people
I just can't believe that we've got a Homeland Security Chief describing migrants as dirtbags.
Yeah.
I mean, OK, there will be some that are criminals and you can call them dirtbags as long as you want to. I don't care. But there are others being swept up in this, and we've seen it already, that are not
just random
criminals. They're just random.
Yeah.
To call them dirtbags is despicable.
But it's very much a dog whistle to their particular supporters, isn't it? It's not... it's interesting listening to moderate Americans talk and how separate they seem now to their government, how big that gulf is.
Yeah, and how scared they are.
Yeah, exactly, and how just confused as well, how genuinely sort of upsetting and disorientating it must be for them to actually see this thing that everybody said was going to happen actually happening.
Yeah.
Not particularly effectively. Which
No,
is a relief.
not as effective as Biden was. So there you go. And another story here: support for Ukraine in war shaken with Trump U-turn. They're talking about Vladimir Putin's Russia invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. They've actually put that on the paper. I hope Donald reads it. Joe Biden rallied the world. The US and its partners isolated Russia and poured tens of billions of dollars in arms, cash and loans to Volodymyr Zelensky's battered country. This goes on to say that America stands up to the bullies. I just hope that Keir Starmer and Macron were able to convince Donald Trump that he was on the wrong side of history, so suggesting that that the Ukrainians started
that was bizarre. Who is he talking to at that point?
Trump, Putin.
Presumably, it's just for just the Kremlin, really, because that thought. I haven't encountered it anywhere else.
No, nobody.
There isn't. That isn't really a.
That's not a
point.
thing.
It's not really a thing. No, exactly. It's not even a. I feel as though it's not even a conspiracy theory.
No.
In this country, I don't know. Maybe it reflects a sentiment that's held in the US, maybe.
Yeah, but there's all these rumours now, aren't there? And I don't really like rumours, but the suggestion that Trump was recruited by the KGB many years ago, and that he's bought and paid for by Russia.
Well, I mean, that's the only real logical explanation, isn't it?
Well, I mean, look, a lot of people always say to me, don't underestimate Donald Trump, which I think is, but they're saying that what his end goal is to reduce defence spending in America, Russia and China, and that that's what he's trying to achieve, that he's trying to achieve getting Russia to agree to spending less money on defence, and therefore America can spend less money on defence, and if China agrees as well, then we can de-escalate defence spending. Now, if that is a plan, I think appeasement is the wrong way to go about it, but it's not a bad plan, if that is a plan.
But is that his plan?
I don't know.
It's a bit happy-clappy, sort of, for someone who's obviously a few
But I did read
short.
somewhere today that Putin did agree to reduce spending on defence, but I don't believe Putin. So
No, exactly. I don't really believe any of them.
So I don't trust him.
No.
So, and I have very, very good historical reasons not to.
No, precisely. I think the whole thing is ridiculous. No, I mean,
But look, if that is the plan, then I will send a tweet or whatever, a Truth Social to Donald Trump, telling him he's wonderful.
What a great idea. World peace. Was actually your goal.
Well, that was your goal all along, and you've done it.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I hope we're wrong, and I hope that is the case.
If he actually is, this whole thing is just a great 4D chess.
Big mess, just to reduce to world peace.
There's going to be utopia by the end of his tenure. No, I think that's probably not the case.
Well, look, let's be hopeful.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Russian plant. Would anybody be surprised?
No.
From sort of the 90s through to now.
No, but there's also suggestion. There's been more than suggestions, hasn't there, about interference, Russian interference in his elections and the support that he got from Russia. We knew that the first time round. So there's an odd relationship between those two.
Really weird.
Putin sucking his toes, not Elon Musk.
Yes, that was quite funny.
That was hilarious.
That was quite funny.
I enjoyed that.
There's going to be plenty more of that, isn't there?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Ed Wiseman and I are going to take a very short break, but we'll be back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, good to have your company, and with us is Ed Wiseman, and we're looking through the papers. I just wondered as well if you'd seen the new MAGA, the MAGA's now been hijacked. It says "Make America Gay Again," which I quite like.
Yeah, I quite like
the
that.
new MAGA hats.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we should probably have more of that. Yeah, I wonder how long it would take anybody to notice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you're saying about Republicans.
No, of course not.
Right, let's have a look at the Times for Wednesday. Zelensky to sign a deal with the US. I was hoping this would be covered. Kyiv and Washington have agreed to a deal on Ukraine's minerals that could be signed off as early as Friday. Officials in the Ukrainian capital said President Zelensky was likely to travel to the US to sign the accord. It comes after the new Trump administration demanded access. I mean, they demanded billions and billions and billions of dollars from Zelensky, and he said he wouldn't sign that. So I can't see what the detail is.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping, because he said he wouldn't sign a deal that would take 10 generations of Ukrainians to pay back. There's some question, of course, about how much money actually went to Ukraine. It isn't the $350 billion that Trump keeps spouting. It was nowhere near that. It was nearer to about $119 billion. Still a lot of money. And Zelensky thinks that he saw about $100 billion of that, because a lot of it, 70% of the aid money that was for Ukraine was spent in America.
Yeah, which is
in producing weapons.
Yeah, you give somebody aid and you say, but you have to buy bombs from us. But so, we've been doing that for ages.
Yeah,
Europe's
we have.
Been doing that for ages.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing more detail on that. Kemi Badenoch, Labour's plans to reform copyright laws to make it easier for AI companies to operate in the UK are not fit for purpose and must be halted.
Yeah. Well, did you see today? All of the papers had a big splash on the front. They were wrapped. They were wrapped all with the same initiative and a QR code that I did not scan. But I'm sure it said pretty much that the AI rules are currently completely not fit for purpose.
Not fit for purpose.
Fall very far short of where they need to be in order to be anywhere approaching watertight.
To protect artists. And you know, they released a silent album.
Yeah, fine.
Which isn't totally silent. It plays the sounds of theatres without music and without performers in it, and it plays, you know, the sounds of films without
all
actors.
Very lovely, isn't it?
But I think it's making a point.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
Right? I mean, you know, if artists are destroyed, if they can't afford to work, like they tried to do in Hollywood, to say, you know, you do one job, we pay you for that one job, and then we can use your image for the rest of time. No. So that was halted. That was the whole SAG-AFTRA strike. But if you deprive artists of their income, you haven't got any artists left.
Yeah. I think, again, artists versus the might of the state and you know, AI companies. Is it a bit David and Goliath?
It is a bit David and Goliath, but remember who won that battle?
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who my money would be on. I don't know who my money would be on at this point.
Look, I mean, anything that I don't know.
It's a bit depressing, isn't it?
It is so depressing. New runway for Gatwick, near takeoff.
Yeah.
It's been near takeoff for a while as a travel
Gatwick, talking of don't know who the winner's going to be, Gatwick versus Heathrow is the sort of the great underrated showdown of our time.
Yeah, the most boring showdown.
It's so boring. Yeah. Are they gonna build a new runway next to it? Because Gatwick already has two runways, but they're just too close together.
Right.
That's the crux.
Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was not involved. And Heathrow, they'd need to extend over the M25, which is expensive and complicated. And
that's going to be complicated to drive the M25 with planes are landing.
Or it's going to be expensive. But would you pay a toll to go through a tunnel that didn't really need to be there, except that they build a runway over the top of it? That's the crux.
No.
Of this. No,
We're
exactly.
happy with that.
Exactly. The whole thing is just a palaver.
Yeah.
And of course, should we be building new runways anyway when we're supposed to be cutting back on air travel for environmental reasons?
Oh, but that's been Ed Bacon Sandwich Miliband has already said no, it's fine because they're going to use clean fuel,
sustainable aviation fuel that has got no sort of bearing in reality.
No bearing in reality.
People are working on it. It's getting there, but it's getting there so slow. It's going to, the runway will also be slow, but far quicker than getting.
But we've been talking about these runways for how long?
And sustainable aviation fuel. I think. We've been talking about these runways certainly for what, 20 years, 30 years? Probably longer.
It's got to be.
It's been a capacity issue for a while. But then there was Boris Island. Do you remember that? That was going to be an airport out in the Thames Estuary.
That very nearly happened.
I don't know how nearly.
Yeah, what? I mean, people are going, actually, it's not a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea. They did that in... Hong Kong's got one, haven't they?
Yeah, the most dangerous airport to land on. It's built in the ocean, basically.
It's built in the,
And when you fly into Hong Kong, there are two now, but when you used to fly into Hong Kong, when I went to Hong Kong, you go so close to the buildings.
Sure.
It is terrifying.
Is that the old Kai Tak?
Yeah. And you can literally see into people's apartment blocks. It's quite interesting.
And they probably think, I can see into that plane. As they're brushing their teeth.
Horrifying.
Seeing you come in.
Yeah. I wish they'd either get on with it or not get on with it, but please stop boring us with it.
It's so tedious, isn't it?
That's what I want to say.
It's the least interesting corporate battle between two airports near London. I think, did you hear they're going to have high-speed trains directly to Germany? That's exciting. Eurostars
that would be amazing.
Going further than just Lille and Brussels.
Yeah, but who's going to run them? Not us, I hope.
I think Eurostar is in the running for it. Eurostar wanted, because they've already got trains in Europe. So theoretically, you should be able to go from London.
Because Deutsche Bahn is great.
Deutsche Bahn's great.
Great. You don't want to mess with that.
No, absolutely not.
And you can even catch you can catch a Deutsche Bahn train direct to Berlin from Paris.
Yes, and from Brussels.
And from Brussels.
And sometimes they hold the train
really,
and the Eurostar's
really
late for
cheap.
Yeah.
It's like £13.
Yeah, if you book in advance, and first class isn't that much more expensive if you get the ICE.
And you get a sleeper for that.
Yeah, the sleeper's really good.
Yeah.
I just went on their pod sleeper. It was the Night Jets, which is the Austrian one, where you get like a little cabin. It's like a cocoon with a little sliding door. They're all brand new. So
I love that.
It's a bit like a couchette, but you have a proper metal door. It's very good.
Do you not feel like you're in a coffin?
No, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than it looks. You feel like you're just in a box on a train. You feel like you're freight, but it costs 45 euros. I can't remember where I went.
See, that's the future of travel for me.
Oh yeah.
Not flying.
No, trains are where it's at.
Trains, I absolutely
much better for the
agree
environment, and you can see out the window.
And you can see out the windows, and you can go to the dining car and have a meal. And I don't remember the meals being that bad on Deutsche. No, they're not bad.
Currywurst.
Yeah, currywurst.
Currywurst, and it's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah,
plenty of kartoffel, and they do the nice Weiss beers. They do that.
The Weiss beer is my favourite.
Yeah, train Weiss beer, and it's still cheaper than a pub.
Yeah.
It's like sort of €7 or something, so it probably is about a fiver. But considering you're doing sort of 200 miles an hour through the Rhineland, I forgive them.
No, I totally agree with you. I think as long as we're not running it.
No, exactly.
Because otherwise that would be an absolutely unmitigated flipping
disaster. Much every other European country does trains more punctually than us.
Way better than us.
Even the Italians, which are quite, expressive in a lot of their ways.
And they do two-tier trains.
Yeah, double-deckers.
Yeah, double-deckers.
I always put the
in
top.
Australia too.
Yeah, anywhere they've got space. But we've got all these rickety old tunnels and you can't really fit anything through.
Yeah, rubbish.
The TGVs, the double-decker TGVs down to the south of France, brilliant.
Yeah, trains are the future.
Trains are the future.
Are we sounding a little bit anarchy here?
Possibly a little bit. I think that's the problem.
I mean, I wouldn't stand on a station and take down their numbers.
You say that now. I didn't used to think I'd be anything like that, but then I remember, I can't remember where, I think it was just Victoria somewhere, that's a Class 465. Out of nowhere. Suddenly you just know and you start collecting them. I guess it's the same as bird watchers.
Your girlfriend was nowhere near you when you said
No, absolutely not. I think I was just on my way back home from work. Yeah, exactly. Just get onto the 465 and ride it
and
away
just
from
leave.
Yeah. No, actually I can't remember what that particular train was, but I remember thinking, oh, crumbs, these are yeah, you do start to recognise.
But you are
them.
a travel journalist,
yeah,
so
exactly.
I just about let you off. We've got to take a quick break while we anorak a little bit more about trains to Germany, and we will be back.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it's Petrie here with you, and with me is Ed Wiseman, and we are going through Wednesday's papers. The Daily Telegraph, frequent flyers face paying more under government climate plans. We're playing right to your strengths
we are
today, aren't we?
We are, sort of. I think,
as long as you know the answer, which would be embarrassing as a travel correspondent. You don't.
Well, I mean, all of these initiatives. There's a fine line between targeting frequent flyers who just like to go to the Maldives every now and again, and targeting frequent flyers whose family is abroad or work.
I used to work in Berlin. I used to fly all the time, every other week.
Because they didn't have the Eurostar going directly
there.
Yeah,
they didn't. They didn't have the train then.
No, exactly. But yeah, there's how do you sift out the people who are simply flying recreationally from the people who are actually flying because they really, really need to?
Yeah.
And that's the thing about plane travel. It's all very well saying it's terrible for the environment, but it does mean that people can go and see their family in India, which you simply can't do by any other means. No,
there's no other way to do it.
There just isn't really. And I think that's kind of the problem with a lot of these initiatives. When we think of frequent flyers, we think of people flying business class out to go skiing.
Yeah.
But actually, a lot of people are
just saving the money and going
shuffling around. Yeah, to go home for weddings or whatever, and just shuffling around the world in economy class. And that is the bulk of flying when we actually get down to it.
We're talking about flying. Would you fly an American airline at the moment across America?
Across America, on safety grounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I think the odds are still in your favour. There've been some incidents.
I mean, you have had senators saying, "Well, planes crash."
Yeah.
Which is not helpful.
It's not useful.
When you've sacked a load of the FAA.
Yeah. I think, there's the air traffic controllers. I think there should be plenty of. I think there should be a surplus of air traffic controllers of anything.
No, there isn't. Yeah.
I don't think that should be something that you cut back on. No,
you have seen half a dozen individual crashes in America.
There've been a few. There's been a bit of a run. It's more than usual, but actually, when you look at how many there are, how many incidents there are, the one in Washington was the first proper crash for a long time. But the other near misses and bangs and runway fender benders, it's not wildly out for this given period. It's the same as at Christmas. Remember there were lots of plane crashes at Christmas?
Yeah.
Around Christmas time. Maybe a few more than normal, but actually it's partly the media just feeding it, because once there's one plane crash, people want to hear more about other plane crashes, combined with the fact there tend to be more airplane movements during that period.
We still haven't heard anything about the Washington DC.
No,
because after Trump came out and said it was DEI, it turned out that both pilots and the air traffic controllers were all white men. Yeah. He's gone a bit quiet on that.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe his hypothesis was proven false.
It was proven false. Emphatically proven false.
Yeah, I do wonder.
It was three white men in.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't like to speculate what happened. Did you see the Southwestern incident earlier today?
No.
I can't remember where it was, but they had to do a go around. That's the other thing. At the moment, you can now get very high resolution videos that people just happen to be taking of planes landing outside their hotel. So you do get, proper 4K video of plane crashes in a way that you just didn't before.
You didn't before, and that feeds the news cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So people play it on repeat.
What about the one in Canada that flipped upside down?
Yeah, just
no injuries.
No injuries at all. And
unbelievable.
And that's the other thing, is that there are, a lot of these things are now survivable in a way that they weren't 30 or 40 years ago. Not that I would particularly like to be in a plane crash.
No.
But I'd still rather just land the normal way, the right way up, where possible.
Yeah.
But it's I think I'd still go. But I haven't flown for ages. I'm one of these tree huggers. I'm only just coming around to the idea. I gave up flying in 2018. Yeah.
Wow. So I used to fly a lot again in my youth as a reporter going all over the world.
Yeah.
But I haven't flown for years.
It's exactly the same. I used to fly
it's
multiple
mainly
times
because
a week.
I hate airports. I mean, I literally hate them with a passion.
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly fond of all the people who go to airports either.
Any of the people around you or crowding onto a little pressurised metal tube with them? No, don't like it.
Don't
like you, I used to fly a lot. I used to fly several times a month, often sort of back to back. and then just realised I could quit cold turkey. And now I just travel by train for the time being. I'm going to have to get back on a plane at some point because you can't go by train to America or Japan or places like that yet.
I have no intention of going to America for quite.
No, that's the thing. That was the other thing. I really want to go to America. I
wonder what their tourist figures are doing, actually.
I reckon the tourist figures are going to be exactly the same.
Do you?
Yeah, I reckon, or like 4% drop. I don't think it's going to be like American products here. Like people aren't buying American cars and things like that. I think people are still going to go.
Really?
Yeah, I reckon. Maybe not from Europe so much, but I think there's so many people going from South America.
At the moment, sadly.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you boycotting, or do you just not want to go there?
I have no interest in going there at the moment under this regime.
Yeah, I do want to go at some point. I hope the next regime is better. Yeah. But how do you claw back from this?
I don't know. I just hope that one day everyone can go, see, Petrie, you were wrong, and I go, oh, I want to immigrate to America. But I can't see.
Where would you go?
New York.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean, New York's fabulous.
I would love to just go on a road trip.
I've always wanted to do that.
I'd like, but again, I've got those 3 3/4 years to wait before it's sort of good to go.
Yeah.
And that's if they get rid of him.
Yeah, if.
Well, that's the thing. What do you think will happen? What do you think the end game is?
Well, they've already started the third term project, haven't they? And Donald Trump, look, in fairness to him, he's never lied. He said, if you vote me this time, you'll never have to vote again.
He did say that out loud, didn't he? Yeah.
You know, I mean, you've got to be... He told everybody exactly what he's going to do, and he is doing it. The fact that I think what he's doing is reprehensible, he hasn't lied about it. And that's unusual for a politician. So, look, he said, if you vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. And that, you know, and calling himself the king and... you know, showing images of him wearing a crown, and then this third term project showing images of Caesar, who declared himself as the world dictator forever. So maybe he's never going to go. Or maybe there's now an idea of doing a North Korea, and his son Barron will be the next.
Yeah, we haven't heard very much from him. He doesn't
apparently
feel like
he's being groomed to take over from Trump.
Oh, is he? Because he isn't being very publicly groomed to take over from Trump. He isn't being he doesn't have a habilitated public image like they did in North Korea.
Yeah, but yeah, apparently he's the chosen one and not any of the others that are...
Any of the actual...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't... That's fine from my perspective. It's not like they're sort of qualified incumbents. It's not like there's a deputy who's ready to take the reins.
Well, no, because he hasn't so far mentioned Vance as his successor. Which is really unusual.
Yeah.
Since he's the vice president, but he hasn't. He'll just say, "We'll see."
Yeah. Which is code word. Yeah. But what happens if he dies? It does go to Vance, doesn't it? If Trump dies, he can't sort of abdicate and appoint. He can't actually.
No, we can't, and there can't be an election. It doesn't work the way it works here.
Yeah.
So you can't force an election either. So it's Republican now until the end of this term. Whoever is in charge, it will be Republican.
Yeah.
So it would be J.D. Vance. Yeah.
Are there any non-nutters at the top of that part at the moment?
Well, no, because they've all been replaced everybody with Christian fundamentalists.
Yeah.
So whatchamacallit, RFK thingy.
Yeah, nutter.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he doesn't seem very well for the health minister.
No. Giuliani was the nearest they had to a normal.
Yeah, but then he went a bit corrupt as well, didn't he?
Yeah, a bit nutty, but back in the day he was quite good, wasn't he? He was New York's mayor, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was.
He
did a good job in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually.
That's what I was thinking.
He did the zero tolerance, didn't he, to crimes
in that period?
He seemed to be really on it. Yeah, actually.
So he must have been fairly compos mentis at that point to do what he did in New York. So,
yeah, I don't know. I just hope that my gut feeling is wrong about the US. I really do. My heart goes out to everybody who's suffering at the moment there. Let's have a quick look at The Guardian for Wednesday. PM cuts overseas aid to increase defence budget in the fight for peace. BBC, we fell short over Westwood misconduct. The BBC has admitted it fell short and failed people again and apologised after a review found evidence of bullying and misogynistic behaviour by its former radio DJ, Tim Westwood. They're not very good at spotting them there, are they?
No.
Savile, Hugh, what's his name? Edwards.
Edwards.
This chap.
Chef guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bit of a disaster. Bad PR. But then lots of people do work there who are presumably quite nice and not misogynistic bullies.
Yeah, like America, I've got no intention of going back.
No, exactly. You obviously don't. I do wonder what it's like there. I remember Tim Westwood being on the radio a lot. When did he stop being on the radio?
I don't know.
He's also weirdly old.
Yeah.
To be talking like that.
Yes. To be down with the kids.
Do you think he's going to go on a bizarre Channel 4 one-off programme in which he strips naked on an island?
I don't know whether you can get over that sort of behaviour now.
No, it's not. It's not quite the same.
Allegations of sexual misconduct and predatory behaviour. It's all these old men with a bit of power, isn't it? All just thinking, there's a young person I can, bully or sexually intimidate.
It's not like proper power. You know?
Of course it's not.
It's just.
But it is the BBC pandering to these people and making them demigods and treating them like demigods, and then they behave like demigods.
Was ever elevated to that level?
Enough.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
Enough.
Because I feel as though Savile was.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say untouchable.
Yeah,
that's the wrong turn of phrase.
But he was. That was a sort of whole different thing. He was on. But I mean, it's probably unfair to compare Savile with
Edwards and all of that. Yeah. Quickly, the Eye. The biggest rise in UK military spending since the Cold War, with missile shield, ships and drones on the shopping list. A missile shield. I wonder if we're going to go like Israel and have a dome.
Have an iron dome, yeah.
An iron dome. Well, Trump wants to build one, and he's been told that he can't because America's too big.
America is big, yeah.
So he just wants one over Washington now.
Which is like America's worst bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right,
Ed and I'll be back in just a moment, but just before the break, it's time now to find out how you could win yourself 25 grand.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Hi, you're with Talk, and Petrie and Ed will be back just in a moment.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour, and with me is Ed Wiseman, and we're looking at Wednesday's papers. The Daily Mail, Ed. PM, hard power now matters more than foreign aid. And the Daily Mail are claiming this is down to them.
Yeah,
that
thanks, guys.
Thanks. Daily Mail is saying that this is their Don't Leave Britain Defenceless campaign that has persuaded Keir Starmer to do this. I don't want to break it. Do you want to break it to the Mail that it might not be their campaign?
I don't know. I think let them have this victory. Let them believe it was them.
See, I don't agree with appeasement, because then they come back for more.
True. Well, they were all quite into appeasement about 9 years ago, weren't they?
Yeah. Yes.
It's difficult to talk about the Mail's distant history.
Yes, actually awkward for them. They ought to probably stay out of stories about war and defence.
A little bit, yeah. I don't know. I think hard power now matters more than foreign aid. I feel as though that it's not either or.
It shouldn't be, but I suppose a lot of us will be thinking, well, at least they're not coming back to me for more tax.
Yes, true.
That would be the overwhelming feeling, I would think.
But you are completely correct in saying that maybe Amazon should be paying for some of this.
I do believe that. We've got a message for you, Ed. Oh, this is one of your fans.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's lovely to see Ed Wiseman back, looking as handsome as usual.
Okay.
Also very entertaining.
Very entertaining.
Well, I think what she means is you're good to laugh at.
Yes, exactly. Very entertaining.
That's why I have you here.
Precisely.
Yeah,
in the same way that, it's a bit of a clown show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to entertain.
You're happy with that?
I'll get like a little spinning sort of bow tie.
That would be good. That would be good. But the moustache is funny enough.
A flower that squirts water. Yeah, the moustache. That's the thing. I know we should be doing more twirly. We should be doing more handlebar. I've taken on board all the comments that
that's what I want.
were left
that's what we all want. That's what we all want.
Yeah, I think so.
Although Catherine says that you're looking very handsome.
Okay,
so there you go. The Daily Mirror, Posh and Pecs.
Yes, that's upsetting.
Do you have that many tattoos?
No. I haven't really made a start on that.
It's going to take you a while to catch up.
He's retired and probably quite bored, so he's happy to go and sit in a tattoo parlour for I don't know how long that would have taken.
I mean, that is a lot of ink.
It's a lot of
more ink than skin.
And I don't think it looks great.
Not as he ages a bit. It's going to look a bit saggy, isn't it?
That's the kind of the problem. Old people.
Is that why you're not tattooed up your neck?
Yeah, just because I know that I'm going to at some point I'm going to be 50, and I'm not going to want to look like that. No, I don't know what he's trying to tell the world with those tattoos. I don't know what it indicates about.
I mean,
him.
look, I like it. I think tattoos can look really nice, and he looks very manly and very handsome, but I just can't get over his voice. It's just a squeaky sort of silly voice. No, and that would put me off. I mean, not that he's knocking on my door. I have to be perfectly honest with you. He's not sort of,
no.
But yeah.
They're both quite weird.
Yeah, she eats the same food every day.
Yeah.
That's odd.
That's really odd. I wonder what do they talk about?
Tattoos. Maybe she
just
reads
tattoos.
Him.
Yeah,
Maybe she just reads him. You don't have to take a book to bed, do you? You can just read your husband.
I don't. Yeah, he's got sort of a crucifix in his chest. I wonder what it said. Do you know anything about his tattoos? Do you know what they say?
I don't know what they mean or anything.
Because I feel as though all of Ed Sheeran's are quite well publicised and sort of they all mean something.
I didn't even know he was tattooed.
Yeah, he's got several. I remember there was some magazine piece about what they all mean.
I was watching something the other day, and have you ever seen a tattoo like the middle of the forearm?
Yeah.
Just one black band.
Yeah.
That goes around that.
New Zealand's thing, isn't it? I thought
no.
it was...
Do you know what it stands for? Apparently.
Go on.
It means they're a swinger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was some Kiwi...
No, I mean, it was originally, there as a sign of loss. If somebody died, you might put a black band, one single band around your forearm, but now it's taken on a completely different meaning, and it means that you're a bit of a swinger.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you don't know if they're mourning or
swinging.
Game. It's a very difficult.
I suppose you just start the conversation by saying,
treacherous.
"Oh, I'm really sorry for your loss," and if they go, "What loss?" You
What
go,
loss?
"I know
I
you
know
are."
you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It used to be pampas grass, didn't
Pampas grass in the front garden.
Yeah.
And the other one was, you know, the Omo washing powder. Women during the Second World War would put that in the window because it stood for "on my own."
Interesting.
Yeah. So that passing stud muffins would know that those women's men were overseas probably, and that they were game.
Yeah.
Bit unfortunate if you accidentally put your Omo in the window.
If you just
though,
left
isn't
it there, yeah, exactly. Suddenly there's a queue forming outside.
And somebody else had planted the pumpkin.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Precisely.
no, go away.
It's all a big misunderstanding. Well, that's the other thing. You must just, you know, sometimes the people sell their houses and somebody else moves in and tend to the pampas grass that they've inherited.
We all know what it means.
Yeah.
So yes, next time you see somebody with a black on the middle of the forearm there.
Interesting. I'll
start
find
off
out.
by saying sorry for your loss.
Sorry
if they
for your
go,
loss.
"Oh, fine."
Yeah. Does the placement of the bands mean
I
anything?
don't think so. It's just middle of the forearm. It goes
Sure.
round like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. These are the rabbit holes that I go down when I
Yeah,
late
exactly.
at night.
How did you find that out?
I can't even remember.
What on earth? Well, yeah, that's.
I honestly can't even remember. I think I can't remember. It would have just been a rabbit hole that I get sucked into when I'm trying to sleep when I get back from the show.
When I'm trying to work, I see somebody with a funny tattoo, just like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, every day's a school day.
Every day is a school day, yeah.
I mean, information is power. You've got to know stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That is my
And
view.
one day that little tidbit is going to get somebody out of some real trouble.
It's going to really help.
One
I'm
of your
telling
listeners
you.
will think, oh, thank goodness I found that out before it was too late.
Before it was too late. You're welcome, is all I can say to that. Right, Starmer says we can't hide from the Putin threat. The Metro's gone for a random front page in terms of news output at the moment. 50,000 babies every year caught in the trap of domestic violence, which is horrendous. It's an odd story to go with, but I suppose it's an important one. This
That's
is research.
Really weird front page.
It is a very strange front page. Yeah, I agree
it's
with
as if they haven't really been
paying
attention to anything. Yeah, the world is on
and the
fire.
Metro doesn't normally go off at a tangent.
No, I wonder what this is about. I wonder if this is somebody's personal project. Not that it's a bad thing to cover.
Yeah, possibly.
But it is not.
Or they've got a first person.
Or they've got a really, really good first person. Or they're serialising something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, this page is 1/3 Doritos adverts.
True.
Which is.
Again, I suppose that's how they're making their money.
Well, it's a Dorito, it's a Minecraft.
Well, they've made their money from you saying that twice.
Doritos, yeah, no, exactly. Definitely. I can't wait for my Minecraft Doritos freebie.
What is a What is it?
Minecraft is a video game.
All right.
And Doritos make, in my view, 6 out of 10 crisps. They're tasty for the first 3 or 4, and then you just start feeling a bit sick.
I have to check to see if they're American.
I think must be. They taste American.
Yeah. The Daily Star.
Yep.
This is what I've been racing towards because it's my favourite. The Daily Star, thought for the day, takes one to no one,
Yeah.
And that is because they've had the Pritt stick out again and the little blunted-ended scissors. And they've said, Bozo Johnson finally says something true. Headline, liar says liar is a liar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lying orange man baby Donald Trump told flat-out lies by calling Ukraine President Zelensky a dictator. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that Trump was misinformed.
No.
And the fact he's going, well, I love this. Did you hear him say, Trump saying, well, we had an election during the war?
Yeah.
And you're going, well, no one was bombing you.
No,
monkey.
exactly.
I mean, literally no one was bombing you.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you could have an election.
Yeah.
It would be irresponsible for Zelensky to send his people out on the streets while Kyiv is being bombed. In fact, we didn't hold an election for 6 years during the Second World War.
Because it would have been a ridiculous waste of everybody's time.
And people would have died going out to vote.
But also, why did... I mean, I assume he wants to get rid of Zelensky because the next guy might be more amenable to...
God knows.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I've given up trying to second guess, actually, because every guess that I come up with is way more sensible than I think is actually going to happen.
Yeah, it could just be a complete random.
Completely random.
Yeah.
I think he just got cross because Zelensky told him that he was basically misinformed by Russia.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
very well briefed by Russia.
Very well briefed by Russia. Ed Wiseman, you can take your handsome self off now. Thank you very much. Indeed, it's very good to see you. Now, though, it is just you and me and our conversations, and that's what we're going to be doing from midnight. So what I want to talk to you about is about this new idea that we take money off foreign aid and spend it on defending the realm, actually in defending Europe, because we need to be a major player, because we're a nuclear power, when it comes to providing an umbrella of safety across Europe if the US decides that it's going to take it away. Well, it has decided it's going to take away, but by how far? Could Donald Trump leave NATO? That would be the next unexpected move, and that totally leaves us having to fend for ourselves. So, do you welcome this news? Or do you think actually it's counterintuitive? We need that foreign aid to be spent because we need to protect ourselves from future problems. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. This is Petrie here with you, and I'm with you until 1 o'clock. And I know that I only fairly recently spoke to you about foreign aid because we were talking about America giving up its foreign aid or slashing its, cancelling its foreign aid budget. But this is different now because we're now talking about a plan by Keir Starmer. And his plan, he announced it today in Parliament before he jets off to Washington, D.C. to see Donald Trump. The timing of this plan, of course, is no coincidence. We know that because what happened was that Donald Trump is expecting European countries, and we are a European country, although not part of the EU, obviously, but to step up on their defence spending. Now, he's mentioned a wholly ridiculous 5% of GDP. I mean, that is ridiculous at this stage. But he wanted everybody to increase to 2.5 or 3%. Now we're heading towards 3%. We're only at 2.3% of GDP at the moment, and we've been languishing in terms of defence spending. We've let it go. We haven't bothered with it. Ask anybody who's in the military. The fabulous SA-80, which is a rifle now that they think won't even fire. It's a rubbish piece of kit. It was always thought to be a rubbish piece of kit, and it's been around decades. There's lots of kit now that is out of date. There's all sorts of issues with our stuff. We've let defence go because we always thought, do you know what? Worst happens, America will step in. And to be fair, that was an agreement after the Second World War. That was the idea, because America is such a huge country. It has so much more money than we do. It spends 3.3% of its budget on defence. It's the biggest spender in defence that we know of. Trillions of dollars spent in defence every single year. It has a massive army, has a massive military. The force, the might of the American military is extraordinary. They've kept growing their defence capability as, I suppose, the police of the world, right? It gave them incredible kudos to be this world, global leader in terms of defence, in terms of personnel, in terms of training, in terms of, they're not to be messed with. I've worked a lot with American forces in places like Somalia, for example, where they were out there, where the Black Hawk went down, if you remember. So and also in Bosnia, there were American forces in Bosnia under the Blue Beret. So I met a lot of them. They're fantastic people. But they've kept going and we've stood still. And Donald Trump rightly has said, right, it's time you started spending money on defence, because we're not going to be there forever. It's like your mum, isn't it? Saying, look, you've got to start saving your money, you've got to put it away for rent, because I'm not going to be able to cover you forever. And that's what Donald Trump has said. And how far he's going to go with that, we don't know. And that has broken the trust, I think, that Europe has had with America for decades, for 80 years. The trust isn't there anymore. We've got a new government in Germany who is saying we need to find a way to be independent from America. And that is a country that is wholly dependent on its defence, really, because of American forces inside Germany, in a place called Ramstein. So they're suggesting we need to be more independent. And I think they're right, because we don't know. Donald Trump has threatened before to leave NATO. I think in terms of global power, for him, that would be a mistake. But hey, we don't know. He's unpredictable. So we could be left literally out in the cold. And Russia, although not quite the bear, is it? It's not quite been able to do what it thought it could do with Ukraine. I think that proves something. I think that proves that Russia is not quite as scary as we think it is. But look, it's a massive country. It's got a massive amount of people. And once it gets more money, it can start rebuilding its defence. And we do know that it has, at the moment, a president that is empire building. So the only way for him to build that empire is, well, we know, to expand, to take over Ukraine, Poland, Latvia, all those countries, all those Baltic countries that are just sitting there, that used to be part of the USSR that Putin wants to rebuild. Where will we be if we don't defend ourselves? But on the other hand, stopping foreign aid could be counterintuitive, right? Because that defends us in an entirely different way. So I'd like to hear from you on this, because it is a big deal. We've just seen USAID cut their budget, and now we're cutting ours. There's a massive humanitarian crisis happening right now in the Sudan. There's humanitarian crisis in Palestine, in Gaza. and the West Bank. There's humanitarian crisis all over the world. And we cut our spending now. Do you think it's counterintuitive? Or do you think this is something we absolutely have to do? Because you can't expect peace if you're not strong enough to demand it. That's why we have nuclear weapons, right? It's a deterrent. So peace comes from strength, not from weakness. 0344 499 1000. Message me as well, 87222. Put the word talk up front and it comes through to me in this studio. Now though, let's go to Grace, who's called from London. Good morning, Grace.
Good morning. Hi. I'm not feeling very good, but good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm sorry you're not well. What's wrong?
No, I mean, I'm just upset about the situation.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, talk. Brilliant. Tell me what you think.
So many things. I was struck by how Starmer spent part of his press conference talking about how it might feel at the moment to be in Ukraine with the war going on and the terror one would feel for one's children. And it's so right that we are encouraged to try to imagine how that must feel and to empathise with Ukrainians experiencing that utter horror. And it's so right that we support Ukraine and the people there. But is Starmer just completely unconcerned about those in Sudan and Congo and various other places who are also facing horrific conflict and who are now going to receive less aid and less support in terms of, food and basic supplies to stay alive when they flee for their lives from war? Does he not care about those people at all? Does he only care about Europeans who are facing war? I mean, I personally believe that God made each person to be of equal value, so I really want to know why our politicians think it's right to support some people and not other people. I really think that if we as British people expect that we should be able to have food, why should we take food away from starving people elsewhere in our world? I'm so angry. I'm really angry.
I get you, and this is why I was asking the question, is it counterintuitive to do this? Because we know that nothing creates, if people are worried about migration, nothing creates migration better than the situations that we're talking about in the Sudan and the Congo at the moment, or in other places around the world, right? People need to want a better life for themselves. They leave those places and they migrate. Not to mention in the Congo, the diseases there could easily come across to this country and devastate this country. So it does feel counterintuitive to take money away from those projects that protect us in a way we don't see. And I think that's why it's easy for people to say, yeah, let's take it off that. That's out of my eye line. I don't see it. I don't have to look at that. And let's put it into defending this country, which should be our number one priority.
But they're just as human as we are. They are just as human as we are. I mean, we get upset rightly if people here have to use food banks, but there are people elsewhere in our world who will be over the moon to access a food bank because actually they have nothing to eat. And it is our responsibility, morally, because they are just as human as we are, but also because a lot of their poverty is connected to things that have made us rich. I mean, we're all benefiting from devices that have got minerals taken from Congo. Sudan colonized by our country. We cannot just pretend that those people do not matter. They're just as human as we are. And what's actually really exciting is that if we spend aid money well, and I'm well aware that some of it is wasted, and then the tabloids like to find little examples and twist them and misrepresent them, and people think, oh, that must be how all aid money is spent, which is ridiculous. But when aid money is spent well, pound for pound, it makes so much more difference than any money we spend here. So I'm really excited that though I've got almost no income, if I give a little bit to charities working in the poorest parts of the world, I know it can really improve the lives of a few real human beings. And so to say we're just going to stop spending money over there and bring it in over here, you can't do as much with it here, and I just despair. And I'm very fortunate to live in a Western country where I've not had to face famine, but I have experienced anorexia, and it's flipping horrible to be starving, and I think most people don't realise that. And I'm so angry that completely unnecessarily there are going to be more innocent human beings now without food when it's actually incredibly easy and low cost to provide aid for them. And I mean, like you said, it's counterproductive long term, but it's just also a complete moral failing, and I'm so angry.
Listen, if you know me, you know that I'm pretty much on the same page as you with foreign aid. I do think it's important. I do think it's important we get a handle on it, and I know that Keir Starmer and David Lammy now are looking at projects that they could cut, and maybe they'll cut puppeteering in Afghanistan, or poetry reading in I don't know, Romania. Maybe they'll do that, but my fear is that you throw the baby out with the bathwater when you start cutting. And you've got to remember that this comes on, I know you do, but it comes on top of US aid being also cut. Yeah. And so the devastation the ripple effect of that across the world is already being felt.
Yeah, I mean, it's inefficient in itself, because there are, for example, containers of food which now cannot reach the people that they're to reach because it's just been cut. And I'm really disturbed seeing how a lot of people following the end of the USA Department have just completely wholesale, sycophantically bought the lies that people like Elon Musk have put out about USAID. Loads of what has been claimed about USAID has been roundly debunked. They did not spend USAID money on a trans opera in Colombia. That was money from a different US department.
It was, actually, yeah.
All kinds of complete fallacies. And it worries me that people will just buy what the tabloids are saying and not look any further at the actual information, and people are going to die.
I mean, there's no doubt about it, Grace. This will have major impacts in places that aid doesn't get through, and like I said, on top of the US aid, not like you said, being stuck in places now, and they're not getting that food through. This will result in people dying, but it's so easy to other people, isn't it? For people to sit here in the UK and go, well, we've been giving aid to that country for how many years now, nothing's improved, and they don't understand what's happening is that local wars, local militia, all the sorts of things that are going on in the Sudan is not really the fault of there isn't a government that is in control of that.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't like our politicians all of the time, then riotous people here think that the civilians in Sudan or various other countries should be blamed if they end up with corrupt politicians is completely beyond me. And we should recognise that part of the reason that they have corrupt leadership in some of these countries is that colonialism left behind, and I know we didn't personally make the decision for colonialism to happen, but we have benefited from it. But it left behind instability that allowed some of the most corrupt individuals to take over, and the civilians are suffering, and it's not their fault. And in regard to the fact that we have been giving aid money for a while, actually the wealth that comes in the opposite direction from the developing world to the developed world far exceeds the amount of money that is given in aid. We are actually still net beneficiaries because of things like tax offshoring and the fact that some corporations just completely exploit resources. We're still benefiting actually far more than we're giving in aid. And I know how much impact it can actually make. If you sponsor a child, it can actually make a real impact to a real person. And I've met some of those people as adults. So it's really exciting that we have the privilege of helping people. And I'm so angry that Starmer has just thrown this away. I've been defending him for months, and I give up now. I'm completely politically homeless.
Oh, is this has done it for you, has it? The idea of taking money away from people in countries that most people can close their eye to.
Yeah, I mean, unless my MP, who has been marvellous so far, but unless I see him doing something tangible to oppose this, I'm not voting Labour again. I don't know who I'll vote for. Maybe I'll start voting Green.
Interesting, Grace. It's so great to hear your passion about this, and I hope that this it gets people thinking, because I suspect a lot of people who like, we've been supporting these people for a long time. That's why should we do it? And there is that, and I think that's around the world now. You look what's happening in America. That sort of very inward-looking, not realising the damage that they're doing to themselves while they're hating on other people.
yeah, I think people are perhaps unaware of the frustration that some people feel in other parts of the world, seeing how countries like ours became rich by taking from countries like theirs. Again, I know we didn't personally make those decisions, but we do benefit from them. And now we have so little regard for them. And it is a real risk. I mean, China and Russia are getting the claws into Africa. They are going to convince people in Africa to hate us. I mean...
yes, the Wagner group changed their name, didn't they? They're all over Africa now, all over, I think it's Nigeria mostly, where they're getting paid with mineral deals and oil fields and things like that.
Yeah.
The Wagner group from Russia, yeah.
Our politicians are really ignorant about how things could move forward. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to be born into a refugee camp in one of these places where there is no food. But, you know, if we're worried about security, we should be concerned that just a few of those individuals might be coerced by jihadist groups to really, really hate the West, and they will be completely desperate, and that is not good for our security.
Absolutely right, but this is also the thing that it's unforeseen consequences, isn't it? That people don't think about that if people are growing up in these horrendous places where they're being told, look, see what the West has done to you, look at the West, hate the West, go and bomb the West, then that creates a terrorist, and that is also part of the foreign aid budget, is that soft power to say, look, we're nice people, really. We're good people. We you know, don't hurt us. We fed your mum for a year while she was, you know, having babies and supporting those babies, and that is part of it. You're absolutely right, Grace. Great to talk to you. Thank you very, very much indeed. Going to take a break, but back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And we're talking about the announcement made today that Keir Starmer intends now to bolster our defence spending in light of recent events. And he's going to take that money from foreign aid. And don't forget that US aid has been cancelled for now. Apparently they're going to restructure it and do something, but they're not at the moment, right? It's not happening. So this sort of a tsunami, and now a wave behind that tsunami of us cutting foreign aid. And Grace did make some very good points, right? She is talking about the fact that, you know, that is part of power and it's part of responsibility. We're still the 5th richest country in the world, and there are responsibilities that come with that. And it's interesting because I've got a message here. Hang on a second. I just skipped past it. Here we go. This is from Tristan. Hi, Tristan. Thank you for your message. I'm sorry, but we can't just keep giving money away all the time. People hate this country. Then, yet when we actually send money there, then people moan. Perhaps if we do the lunacy that is net zero, we could actually manage our spending better and have money for defence, etc. I wonder if Grace is bothered about the pensioners or the farmers. I'm sorry, but charity should begin at home. There are limits. But Tristan, the point that I always make about this is it's not one or the other. If foreign aid was completely scrapped, I'll let you think just for a second, how much of that do you think, that £12 billion per annum, roughly speaking, how much do you think that would be given to pensioners? How much do you think would be given to farmers? None of it. None of it. It would go into a big black hole that is government expenditure. It would go on some other stupid thing that we really don't need. It would probably go on net zero, wouldn't it? It would be going straight into Ed Miliband's pocket. But where it wouldn't go is to the farmers or the pensioners. I can guarantee it. It might go on some other pay rise. Don't forget they're giving those train drivers a £10 billion pay rise. That's almost our entire foreign aid budget. £10 billion went on a pay rise to stop them striking. Guess what? They're still striking. So it would go on another union. It would go on another thing. It wouldn't go to the pensioners, and it wouldn't go to the farmers, because they've made those decisions. And by the way, those decisions were not based on financial need. Those decisions were made on politics. That was politics. We could have afforded both of the things you're talking about. We chose not to. Or not we, they chose not to. So it isn't one or the other. If it was, I would totally agree with you and go, yeah, well, let's spend it here first. Charity begins at home, all of those things. The trouble is, it doesn't, and it won't. And you know it as well as I do. Just wouldn't happen. So, but thank you for your message. John is in West London. Hello, John. Oh, West Lothian, sorry. I've done that to you before, haven't I?
Yes.
Sorry. It's because I'm getting old and tired, and my glasses probably need updating, and so I just see the L and go, it looks a bit like London. Anyway, West Lothian, John, how are you?
Yeah, you tend to forget about the Scots. That's
Never forget about the Scots. How dare you? Your Scottish blood runs through my veins.
Oh, does it? Oh, well.
Yeah, half Scottish.
There must be some goodness there somewhere.
Right. That's the only good part of me, is the Scottish part. I think that's the truth. So tell me, what do you think, John, of this decision by Keir Starmer to take the money off foreign aid to spend on defence?
I totally agree with it. I mean, one can argue about it, but I think that, our foreign aid budget has been ridiculous for a long time. We're giving it to people where it is going into countries that are totally and absolutely corrupt. We're giving it to countries that are, spending lots of money on trying to get rockets to go to the moon and everything else. We actually need to really look at where we're spending it, and can we ensure that the money goes to the people that actually deserve it? And I just do not believe that that's what happens.
I agree. It may interest you, it may surprise you, but I totally agree with you. I think there is a lot of waste, and I hope that this government does sit down and go, right, well then let's not fund poetry in Romania. I don't know why I'm saying that. I've just made that up completely. I have no idea what's going on in Romania.
Well, how about the dancing girls in Tanzania or whatever they else?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, there will be things, but again, there was there a pop band in North Korea or South? I can't remember, some girl band, or in Russia, but that was about these girls singing pro-Western songs or something. So some of it, on the face of it, doesn't look like it makes any sense. And then you look at it and you go, well, actually, maybe that is a soft power. That's a soft power move. I kind of get that. But I agree with you. It's wasted. It isn't being spent in the right places, and it should be.
Yeah, I don't believe that this soft power actually works.
I do,
Petrie. I mean, I think that we have always convinced ourselves that we can influence all this in the world. I don't think we can, and I think that you've got countries like China, which will have greater power, have greater money, will invest in these things, which are anti-Western decisions and philosophies and standards and all the rest of it. And I don't think we have that anymore. And we people still criticise us for our empire or whatever we had. These China and Russia and these people are putting far greater emphasis into taking over the world than we ever did. And I think we did a lot of good. We did things wrong, I think that is absolutely, I'll take the criticism that we did things wrong as well.
Yeah.
But I think we did more good than wrong.
I suppose it depends which end of the prism you're at, right? It depends at which end of the telescope you're at as to what good we did and what wrong we did. But look, I think that you are absolutely right with foreign aid, and there is money going to countries that even tell us they don't want it. Right, they go, look, stop giving us foreign aid. We don't want it.
Yeah.
I think India did that, and we got no business giving any foreign aid to China either. So there are countries and there are places, and yes, it does end up in the wrong pot. There doesn't seem to be a great oversight, does there? There doesn't seem to be great accountability for these billions of pounds. But where I differ from you is saying that you don't think soft power works. I think it does. And I think it's important that we recognise that even just going in as the United Nations or as aid agencies or things like that, the local information we get, intelligence gathering we get, often aid is a ruse to getting more intelligence from a country or finding out what's really going on. And I think that is more powerful and more important than we perhaps give it credit for. Well, I also think that medically, we've got diseases that have been held in Africa, have been kept at bay from the rest of the world, thanks to medical care from the rest of the world, who go over there and go, oh, we don't want this travelling, we don't want this going anywhere other than here, and we're going to try and things like getting rid of mosquito-borne diseases. We're doing really good work with that. And I think those things are important, not only for those countries, but for us as well and the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think probably a medical thing is probably justified, and I wouldn't argue with you on that one. But I think on other things that I would disagree with you, with the greatest respect to your experience, Petrie. Is that people like UNRWA and the United Nations is anti a lot of what we actually believe in and actually what our standards are, and what I think that Britain generally, and you can criticise America as well, which you have done this evening, quite considerably, which I would disagree with. But that.
See, we're allowed to disagree. This is the home of free speech, you see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole, I think, your whole station is about: is that people can have honest disagreements without,
like grown-ups.
Too far.
Yeah.
But
and many of my colleagues are great supporters of MAGA and Donald Trump. So it's only right that there should be one that isn't.
Yeah. But I do believe that that we actually need to actually stop and think about what we're doing, where we are spending our money, and at the end of the day, the government is there for the protection of this country, and if we are concerned about the long-term situation with regard to Russia, and let's face it, Mr. Putin will not be around there forever, but is his colleagues going to be?
Well, that's the trouble. Is if you look at the anybody around Putin that lasts more than a year without being killed, mysteriously falling out of a window, then they're all a pretty bad bunch. So yeah, I'm reluctant to say I can't wait till Putin's gone, because who replaces him could be even worse. But you know, Russia under Putin, no mistake, is on the move, and we do need to. Like, people say that I love, you know, oh, you're a warmonger, and it's like I'm totally the opposite to that. As you know, I've seen it. I don't like it. It's horrible. It's disgusting. I don't wish it on anybody. But we have to come from a position of power if we want peace, and that's all I'm saying. That's all I've ever said.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, you know, if you show weakness, then you've lost.
Well, Putin absolutely is looking for that chink. And that's why he spends half his time with all his people, spend half their time hacking us to try and find a weakness.
Yeah, he'll destroy anything that he can get, you know, that he can do.
They can't be trusted. That's the truth of it. And that's why I'm wondering why Donald Trump is trusting him. But
well, I'm not sure that he is, actually. I mean, I think that he's playing the game.
What, by saying that Ukraine started the war?
Yeah, well, yeah, he makes a lot of silly statements. I mean, I think that is, you know, I mean, nobody can deny that. He makes a lot of silly statements.
Yeah, why hasn't Zelensky had an election? We had one during the Second World War. Yeah, you weren't being bombed, mate.
Yeah.
You know, that's just nonsense. It's just ridiculous.
But I think that
that's Russian. That's straight from Putin or Lavrov.
I think that Zelensky and Donald Trump will get together. I think they will meet
this week. I think, yeah.
Yeah, and I think they will reach a mutual agreement. You know, I mean, Ukraine always had a reputation of being a rogue state, if you like, to some extent, and I think that's true.
It's got a greater history than Russia has. I mean, it's you know, as a sovereign nation. I mean, you've got to look. If you look right back, I've got a lot of time for the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian state. And I mean, look at the power that they have shown to the great bear, who turned out to be clawless and pretty toothless.
Yeah, well, you know, after the saying that it's a special engagement in the last 3 days.
Yeah, they thought they'd be met with.
It was absolutely stupid.
Ridiculous. Totally underestimated that. They thought there'd be speeches, rounds of applause, and flowers being thrown at the tanks, which, by the way, got stuck in the mud because they had Chinese tyres on them that had rotten because they've been standing still for so long. But anyway, John, listen, we agree on some and disagree on others, but that...
Well, that's a great joy about your station, about, you know, the fact that, you know, people like myself can actually phone in and actually have a discussion.
Oh, I love it. It's my favourite part of the show. Honestly, I swear to you, is talking to you guys. It just makes me so happy, and I love it. John, you take care from West Lothian.
Yeah,
I'll get it right one day, I promise you.
Yeah, no, for an old person, I don't mind.
I'm getting old, mate. You know, what can I say? Now, listen, how about you winning £25,000? Mike Graham is here to tell you how you can do it.
It's competition time, and we're giving you a chance to win a whopping £25,000. So what do you need to do to get involved? All you have to do is text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post. It's as simple as that. Once again, to get involved, just text the word prize to 83338, or you can enter by post.
18 plus, UK excluding NI. Enter by SMS for £2 plus one standard network charge by 11 p.m. on March the 3rd, 2025. Or send your name, email and contact number to £25,000 cash competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on March the 6th, 2025. This is a News Broadcasting Network promotion. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
So, that's how you win 25 grand. Hang around, though, because we've got loads of calls. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, good morning. It is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. And we're talking at the moment about Keir Starmer's announcement today in the Commons that he was going to be taking money from our foreign aid budget and giving it to our defence budget, which does answer the question, how are we going to pay for it, because this extra defence that we need. But that will be a drop in the ocean, I'm telling you. The situation we're in right now is pretty dangerous. We've got an America that doesn't really want to play with us anymore. They don't want to protect us anymore. I say they, I mean him. And we have a situation where Russia is, although not quite the beast we thought it was, has the potential to be, and the desire to expand into parts of NATO territory and watch out as well, because Lavrov has already asked for NATO membership to return to 1990s numbers, so that, you know, dropping Poland out and Finland out and all those countries as well. But Ernie has made a very good point, and this is what I've been saying as well, which is the Russians had to employ mercenaries, conscript old men, fly in North Koreans, buy weapons from Iran and Syria just to steal a few hundred acres of Ukrainian territory. What chance would it stand against a united Europe and America and Australia? It would be wiped off the face of the earth in a matter of minutes. And Ernie, I completely agree with that. But the problem is that it seems America is now siding with Russia. In fact, America didn't sign the UN agreement that was put forward on Ukraine, along with some pretty dodgy characters. So it was America, Russia, I think it was Iran. Can't remember. Not a collection of people you'd want to be. If you're going to a party, you'd say, I don't want to be in that section, right? That's what you'd do, I think. So we no longer have the confidence. I don't think we can rely on America anymore. And you have to listen to what Trump's saying. He's saying that you can't rely on America anymore. So I think we can't. I think that's the truth. And I think that we're on our own. And I think that, you know, there are lots of conspiracies and reasons that people think that Donald Trump is siding with Russia. I don't get into those on air, but they're certainly worth reading about. But look, we've got nuclear power. France has got nuclear power. Germany doesn't have nuclear power. So we're going to be responsible for protecting Europe, one way or the other. And we are going to have to force the rest of Europe to spend money on their defence. Or if they can't, then give us the money to spend on our defence if we're going to be the new umbrella. The point is that more money's got to be spent, because it's all very well going, we've been all right for 80 years. Things have changed. They have shifted. And not in a good way, right? You know it. You can feel it. I know it. I can feel it. So we have to spend money. But should it come from our foreign aid budget? That's really the question, because there's no doubt that there's money being wasted in foreign aid, but there's some good stuff it does too. I just hope that they don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Nick is in Hampshire. Morning, Nick.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy to talk to you.
It's lovely to talk to you. What do you make of this latest move by Mr. Starmer?
Well, I think he's trying to wrong foot Trump because that's his belief. He's not trying to help anything. He's just trying to. He's just. It's almost like he's causing trouble. Yeah.
I think he wants to. I think he wants to be the bit. I think he wants to be the Billy Big Boy.
When the war started 3 years ago, and no one stopped the flow of gas from
Russia.
Yeah, and don't forget that Boris Johnson persuaded Zelensky not to sign a peace deal. Went down there. It's people making a lot of money. And it's really bad what happened in Ukraine. I work with Ukrainians. I work in the offshore industry, and I believe you. I was working in Brunei, and we had a guy from Ukraine as the chief engineer on the boat I was on, one shift, and a Russian on the other. Yeah, but they sort of got on. I've worked in Romania. I've worked in the Black Sea, and it's not as simple as you think. Yeah.
No. There's a lot of families that are intertwined between Russia and Ukraine as well. This was what was so really puzzling about why Russia made this decision. But I tell you what, though, it is what we've still. Do you know what we're mostly importing from Russia? Do you know what the number one thing is? That sort of fertilizer. Russia is one of the biggest producers of fertilizer in the world.
Well, there's all sorts of other stuff that's probably on the internet. I mean, I worked at a place called Constanta in Romania, which was built by Ceausescu. It's the biggest port in the Black Sea, and you get all the timber and everything going through there. You know, it's an enormous place, and there are, on one side you got wild cats running around the place, and the other side you got wild dogs running around the place. Wow. It's just the way it is. Let's say the Black Sea is a different culture. One thing I can tell you is, if you work for a Romanian company that like GSP, you've got to fight for your money, and if because the guys, the guys who ran the boat on them, they're probably 6 months behind their pay, and then I spoke to them about Ukraine was next door, said they're probably about 12 months behind their pay. Not about Russia, they're probably about 2 years behind their pay. Do you ever consider that? Yeah. It's a slavery.
Mm. Oh yeah, there's much. Look, there's much in the world that isn't working very well at the moment. But I do think it's important that we don't underestimate two things. We don't underestimate Donald Trump's desire to pull away from Europe, and we don't underestimate Putin's desire to control much of it.
That's your opinion, but I don't think he wants to pull away from Europe. Trump?
He's already said it.
No, but Trump just picks up. He says something, throws it in the middle, and then goes and does something else. Yeah. We don't know. We don't know what Trump's going to do until it happens.
But do we trust that? I mean, come on. Look, for 80 years, we've had the stability, the knowledge of knowing that if a NATO country was attacked, that America would come to support Europe. That was part of the deal, right? That was part of the deal.
Wait a minute. Who was paying for that?
Sorry?
Who was paying for that? Who paid for the Americans in World War II?
We did. We've just finished off paying off our debt.
Wait a minute. When was the war debt paid off?
A few years ago.
Exactly. So
I don't see your point.
They didn't do it for free. We paid for it. The same with the Battle of Waterloo. We paid the Prussians and the.
Yes, but we've always known it was there. The point is, we've always known it's there. That's the point I'm making. If we're being bombed by Russia, I don't care if we've got to pay them back over the next 100 years. We want to live, right? We don't go, we can't afford any defence.
Want to invade us? Huh? They've never done it before.
Oh, well, that's really not a very smart attitude to, they've never done it before.
Okay,
well, wait, have you not been reading? Have you not been listening to Russian news?
Have you ever heard of a bloke called Lord Beaverbrook?
Have you been watching Russian news where they're talking about nuking London?
Well, of course. Look, well, if you start looking at the press, then and taking that as a guide of what's happening in the world, then you won't get very far.
I am the press. What are you talking about?
I know you are. Yeah, but you're well, you're not. But it's you're working for a press organisation, and they.
I'm a journalist. I was a defence journalist.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a war reporter.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
war reporter.
So I know
Have you
stuff.
ever been to a war zone?
Have I ever been to a war zone?
Yes.
Yes, I have. I spent 2 years off and on in Bosnia. I also went to Somalia while the civil war was happening there.
Oh, tough. Yeah. You ever been shot at?
Yes, I have. I have shrapnel in my hand. Next question.
Well, that's good because you understand the risk.
Yes, that is good, and I do understand, and that's the point I'm making.
But...
And that's why, just to go, oh, they've never done it before, is a really dumb idea when it comes to defence.
I don't call it a dumb idea. That's quite...
It's a dumb idea.
You said that. No, because
I didn't say you were dumb. I said it's a dumb idea to say, well, they've never done it before. I mean, Germany hadn't invaded Poland until it invaded Poland, had it? Oh, it's never done it before.
What resources do they have to do that?
I'm really confused at the point you're making. I'm saying that just saying they've never done it before is not a very intelligent way of looking at defence.
May I finish? Oh, it's up to you. It's up to you. This war's been going on for 3 years. And when they started, you got the whole Russia fighting against 30 million Ukrainians, which is a huge place. And I've got several Ukrainians. Yeah, I work in the industry. I know how devastating it is for them. And how did it start?
You work in the war industry, in defence?
No. I work in the oil industry, mate.
Yeah, it's not the same as defence industry, though, is it?
No, because, well, I'll tell you what, because you meet, it's better, because you meet people from all over the world, everywhere. And
Have you been shot at?
Hear what they're saying. It's the most diverse community in the world, the oil industry. It's the biggest industry in the world.
Not the same as being, actually on the front line, though, is it?
No, don't want to be on the front line, but I hear from people on the front line, and and it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's disgusting.
So we need to stop it.
I agree.
We need to stop it.
But we don't stop it at any cost.
I've got young lads who I've known since they were babies join the army here, and Starmer, who's just been a civil servant with his life, wants to send them down there. Well, you can't even defend our own borders. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Well, it's not. I mean, that is not the same thing. We're never going to use the military to defend our borders from refugees and asylum seekers.
Well, they're not
and
refugees.
they will be.
They're criminal gangs, and they're probably they're a huge organisation. They get so much money out of it. You can't call them criminal gang. Yeah.
No, you can't. No, I agree. You can't call them criminal gangs, not the people who are coming over on the boats. Look, undoubtedly there are some people there who we shouldn't have here, but there are other people who are asylum seekers and refugees, and we would never use the military to defend our borders, because that isn't a war. What is a war is going on in Ukraine and in Russia, and we will need somebody to defend the peace. Quick break.
UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
That was fun. Hello. It's good to have your company. I'm with you for about 5 minutes. Is that it? Crikey! Running out of time. It's because I messed up on the commercial breaks. Joanna has sent a message saying, I think if Starmer, if he was serious about 2.5 defence, he would start immediately with whatever he could cobble together and increase when he could, almost a 3-year wait if it's the end of 2027. I think he's trying to spend that money by 2027 and then hopefully to rethink it. That was my take on it, Joanna, but you could be right. If Angela Rayner takes over, she's already said she's anti-nuclear. Crikey, if we'd had the other one, what's his name? Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn, not Piers Corbyn, he's another one, isn't he? Jeremy Corbyn, he wanted to get rid of Trident. He wanted to get rid of our nuclear weapons. Well done, Jezza. 6.4% increase in our energy bill at the time when the energy normally goes down. Is that to cover the national insurance contributions? No, that's just global prices, I'm afraid. That is just the price it is. But they didn't need to increase the cap, I don't think. Anyway, Tristan, hello.
Hello, how you doing, Petrie?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for ringing.
Well, I mean, I know what I said when I messaged you, but I think there's a number of caveats for certain things that I said, and I sort of wanted to defend.
Oh no, that's fair enough. No. Often with reading stuff or writing stuff, it doesn't come across. So tell me what you meant.
Well, I mean, the first thing I wanted to say is that obviously we are spending an absolute fortune on net zero. And the thing is that if we were not doing that and we could actually use that money for defence, that's what I was saying, that absolute lunacy of net zero, we would, the foreign aid budget, yes, of course, foreign aid budget
pales into insignificance. Yeah, it pales.
It does.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, as you said previously, there's not an audit trail of regards to everything that we're paying for, so they have to be selective. But the thing is, with how this government has been, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them at all. And when Grace said that she's been defending Keir Starmer, and now she's not going to defend him just because he took away the foreign aid budget, well, everything that he said he was going to do, he's not done. He's not done any of it. So what he's saying about this, again, I can't trust him at all.
Do you know what? I mean, I was trying to say this to Nick. I think that Keir Starmer, in my view, is trying to play Billy Big Boy. I think he wants to be the lead in defence for Europe. I think he wants to go to Donald Trump as a big man and say, look what I've done. Look what I've achieved. And I'm going to take France and Germany with... I nearly did a Donald Trump voice then. I don't know why, because it's Keir Starmer talking. But I'm going to, I'm the man. I'm your man in Europe. And that's what I think this is about. I don't think there's any altruism there.
Yeah, but the thing is that I don't think he understands about geopolitics at all. I think he's way out of his depth. And the thing is that, what he done when he first got into power, what did he do? He went and sent all the money to the unions. Everyone that sort of supported him, he supported them. And he's famous what he's doing with the Chagos Islands. Even though it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, he is just pushing it through.
He's doubled down on it. Look what and this is what I keep saying to people, is that those decisions to take money from farmers and from old people, they were political decisions. They weren't based on any real need for that money. Because we're wasting money in other places and spending it on things we shouldn't be spending it on. And that's why I keep saying to people, if they got rid of the foreign aid budget tomorrow, none of that money would find its way back into our pockets. None of it. Not a penny of it.
No, I agree with you, but obviously with the situation as regards to what you're saying about Russia gets its money from Europe.